Previously on the movie show with Joel and Ryan.
We've come in peace. We're your friends.
For victory, understand? Tell your friends.
Listeners everywhere, welcome to the movie show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
Part 2, the second night. So if you enjoyed that first night of V, you were left with what is going to happen.
Who didn't turn in Monday night? That's insanity.
That's
of
true.
Course you did.
Exactly.
Of course you did.
So then on night 2, you come back and it is time for V Part 2. And so that's what we're doing, is welcome to the movie show with Joel and Ryan for our V Part 2. I am Joel.
And I'm Ryan.
And
I'm Michael. Hi.
I'm sorry, Michael. I interrupted you because I was going to say, and obviously, of course, once again, we have our dear friend, Michael Klug from LA.
Well, because the last time I was scolded for pausing.
Mm-hmm. No, you were right. I was wrong. You came in right away. That is on me. I accept full responsibility.
Okay.
I will flog myself.
We'd say that even if Joel
was
wasn't wrong, but Joel was wrong this time.
I'm just doing, like you said, Ryan, what I was told.
Yeah.
And now,
well, what you weren't told to do it. You were invited to do it because it felt like for a couple episodes there you were about to do it, and I'm like, yes, Michael, go. You're Michael.
Oh, okay.
And now
I felt like you didn't do it because you thought you had to defer.
Well,
yeah. And now I must face the consequences.
That's a little harsh.
But do we know, are there stun settings?
All you have to do is apologize publicly to the Republic of China, and you're good.
Yeah. There you go. Just yeah.
Cures everything.
Indeed. All right. So folks, okay. When we hope you enjoyed our last episode where we talked about night 1 of V.
People have really strong feelings about V, which is exciting because we do too.
Yeah, that was really great. And thank you everyone who sort of chimed in on social media about our show, hitting some likes, talking back about, oh my God, I love that show. Well, yeah, there's a reason why you love that show, and you were right to do so.
Well, here's the question before we kind of go back into the deep dive. Were there any supporters of Robin Maxwell? That's the real question.
Yeah, there's one. Ryan is raising his hand for.
I support Robin Maxwell.
Really?
We'll get to all the ways.
All right.
As we go, but
I
support her.
Okay. All right. So here we go. We are going to go.
Didn't I advocate for her a little bit? I tried to.
You did, but I'm saying any outside people saying, "Oh, that stupid Maxwell, eldest daughter of the Maxwell clan."
Unfortunately, the outside people, they don't say things like that.
Yeah,
they say things like,
for her.
"B, I love that too." You know, they don't even say any like. They say things where like they don't even have to prove they listen to the show. Our viewers don't comment much, but when they do, they're very, very clever about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can't bust them.
All right, here we go. It is time.
No comments about Robin one way or another.
Right.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah, maybe we'll start putting some of our people on the spot. Maybe that's how we promote the show this week.
We buried the lead a little bit too. We skipped past the scene where she actually really messes up.
Yeah.
And had to come back to it later, which made it seem like it wasn't as big a deal. But
You're talking about the pool house.
Robin's
situation.
unwillingness. A lot of characters have this problem and they all snap out of it at different times. But Robin's unwillingness to leave her past life behind in her current situation has been the problem the whole time. But I just stand up for her because I really do believe that's a perfectly acceptable and normal response. Maybe not acceptable, but it's a perfectly human response to the situation that she's been thrust into. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I do think a lot of us would be like that.
Yes,
they say there's a study that says if you are sent to prison or you win the lottery, within 2.5 weeks-ish, you revert back to the person that you just were before any of that happened. It doesn't change you fundamentally. It's very difficult to change people. I think we cling to our own realities. I think you see that every day.
Right.
And I just think that's everything she does is just a consequence of that, which I don't.
Yes. But yeah, Robin reacts in a certain way, but then you have someone, so if you just say that's just kind of normal, but you can set up the fact that we discussed Polly, and she does not react in what you would consider a normal position of someone in a younger age.
No, but even Polly's straight up, like her approach isn't extremely pragmatic for the situation either, to be fair. We admire it more because she's this badass tween girl who's just wanting to kick ass. That's fun. But it's also not the answer for the family. Yeah. They're not in a position to be doing that. Mm-hmm. So,
well, you know what? I'm going to start since you're going to be pro Robin.
Well, and
the character's got a more of an arc, as we will see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Polly kind of, but I'm gonna take the opposite, and I'm gonna be pro Polly from here on out because she's, like you said, she's a badass, and
I love Polly. Don't get me wrong, I really do. And when it's time to taunt her sister with a bunch of lizards, she's aces there too.
And of course, I am pro John.
You haven't seen that yet, Michael, because you're saving those for closer to when we air. But
yeah.
All right. So dear listener, you didn't know
just Vivica Davis in general, man. She I don't know how great an actor she was at that age. It's hard to say, but she sometimes when you get a great kid at performer, it's because they really understand the given circumstances,
Yeah.
And they just understand it inherently. They know like Polly knows she's a tool to drive her parents crazy and to bug her older sister. And every time she's given any opportunity to do that, she just nails it 100%. So it's one of the unsung performances of E.
Why don't we just
fight?
Yeah.
Yep.
And just waiting.
Polly.
What's the answer? Just that obstinance.
Yeah.
That's right, dear listener. You didn't know you were going to start the show off with some V hot takes.
Let's get some hot takes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick up for Robin. I don't want to see her pooped all over. She does some dumb things, but
I'm not pooping.
No,
I mean in a podcast.
No, I know. I'm just saying I appreciate the writing as far as where she goes from here, but it is kind of that cliche hormonal teenager, which I guess, if you look at a lot of the characters in this, they are kind of filling a role, so they may branch out from that and be a little more interesting, like we were talking about Ben and Elias and all of that. But she's filling a role, but it is, she, as we know, turns out to be rather important.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Elias,
hold on. Yeah, well, let's get to it here. Let's jump in. We're skipping all over the place, and we're starting to get into night 2 stuff.
Doing a little recap of last week's major arguments.
Right.
Sure, but we're already getting into night 2 stuff. So let's jump right in. Let's do our deep dive of V, night number 2.
Deep dive.
here we go. Okay, now continue away. Argue away.
Have to do a deep dive. Elias just thought, here I just have new people to deal weed to. You know, I mean, he didn't. Ruth was arguing with Abraham. God, calm down, dude. Abraham, who we obviously know is the wisest, most sort of forward-seeing character in the entire thing, and Ruth, who we know to be very capable and have a very good sense of right and wrong, she just doesn't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anybody to be hard on, to me, it's not so much Robin, who's just totally in over her head. It'd be Christine, but we're plenty hard on her.
Yeah.
Or Daniel.
She really, she should, some part of her from the very start knows better and just does all the stuff she does anyway.
Well, it's a great setup for her too, to know that she fixed the pool so she could get the people she wanted.
Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting character thing immediately. So, I mean, it's not hard to see where she's going to go.
She's ethically, just a little wishy-washy, which is that's just what the visitors need.
Yep.
And that's how you get to be Diana's pet and get to be rubbed and patted on the head and grabbed by the wrist. And not everybody gets that sort of treatment. So she earned her way into being alone in a room with Diana and a bunch of guinea pigs and stuff just off screen. She's like the human guinea pig, man.
That she is.
We'll get to that in a bit, I guess.
All right. So we're gonna start. This opens up. Night 2 opens up with our hero Mark Singer. So given the vapors right away, with Mike Donovan coming back to the neighborhood where his son lives, where his wife hates him, his ex-wife hates him.
How can she compete,
and most
Joel?
importantly, where Josh is hanging out hiding.
And Josh is the one person who's still around. He hid inside his toy shuttlecraft.
Josh, who's gets his image in the opening credits, and Josh, who's billed ahead of Frank Ashmore and Robert Englund.
Yep.
You know,
And
Tommy Peterson, right?
Tommy,
I mean,
he has all of the action figures. He's got the mothership at home.
guys,
I know. Can I tell you how bad I wanted those as a child?
Why didn't they ever already told us, and I
know,
believe you.
But now I have this to compensate for 40 years ago that I didn't have these things. So
it's a little cool.
Well,
it
Tommy
would be hard
Peterson,
to fit in a shuttlecraft with that head that size.
Yeah.
But
Tommy Peterson, of course, was coming hot off of his role in An Officer and a Gentleman.
Well, that's
really? So he actually
that's
had
the reality. Tommy Peterson was a more accomplished actor at this point than Robert Englund was. You could argue his role isn't as important, but he was somebody, and he could have played Sean, but his agent and his family or whoever is in charge of the decision making saw this monologue on the opening of night 2 and said, "Well, that's the better role.
That's our boy. That's for our boy."
And got him in the opening credits in alphabetical order along with everybody else.
But he's terrible.
Well, I don't know that he's terrible. He's a kid actor who's not very good, who just overdoes all of it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's anything new. Like I don't think that's any reason to hate poor Tommy, but
I don't hate Tommy. I'm just saying it's like, because I can't think of the character.
I don't mean
name, but Sean's a better actor.
Hate him, but I'm just saying in a movie way, you do seem to throw shade at him and hate him.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like Sean's a better actor. That actor's better.
Not demonstrably better.
No, but just in the line that we talked. The line we talked
so
about.
far he is better because he's the more natural actor.
But the point is when he said, "Let me see it," he's like, "No, let me see the trinket that Mike brought home."
It's true, and you did
in a minute, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. That's organic and good.
Yeah. So speaking of though,
go watch it again.
So Tom, it's
Tommy, good enough.
Tommy earns. I mean, Josh. I keep wanting to just call him Tommy.
Tommy Peterson. Well, because it's funny. It's a funny.
Tommy Peterson is
kid
a
actor
better name. That's a better. Yeah, that sounds like it should be the character name.
Josh is the Tommy Peterson of the neighborhood. Truly.
So
well, yeah, he's got all
Donovan
the toys.
comes back to his neighborhood or his wife's neighborhood looking for his son, and everybody is gone. The whole place has been wiped out. There's little scar marks on the doors.
Yeah,
something's gone down here, and in
Cars
the course of him
overturned.
searching for Sean,
and
he comes across Josh.
Josh is in full-on PTSD mode. He's in shock, and he wishes he could have done something, but what's he gonna do? He's a kid. But here's what he can.
That's what Donovan says.
Yeah, here's what he can do, and what and Donovan, in the midst of obviously of the shock,
which is not a great acting moment by Mark Singer, by the way. You don't worry, kid. You couldn't have done anything.
No, the two things of note for me in this sequence is
he's trying to make a kid feel better, but I'm just saying
is that the dialogue
work in this scene.
The dialogue has Singer saying, "Oh my God, that sounds terrible. What else?" it's really funny actually, but the other thing is the little flashback is terrifying.
It is.
It's really scary.
Yep.
But Josh comes through actually, because Donovan's like, hey, you remember that, I know you have the mothership at home and everything, but you remember that cool thing that I brought that was an actual thing that made my son cooler than you? Where is it? Do you know where Sean put it? And Tommy Peterson as Josh Brooks, man, he knows.
Because see, Josh, your parents are gone and they're going to be dead now, but my son still has a father who loves him and is going to keep trying to find him. So, So hand me the key and let's move along.
Will all of your toys help you now, Josh?
Yeah. Your parents were too busy trying to buy your love.
Your love.
And who's an orphan? It's you, isn't it?
And not who's an orphan. It's true.
He doesn't quite say that to him, but Donovan is very single-minded in this scene, and it isn't towards Josh's welfare.
But it's also, we find out just in a moment that that Josh likes spaghetti too. That's important for character.
There is that,
yeah, because he goes to stay with Tony's adopted sister.
Yeah.
Tony was adopted from Korea. He's a Korean import, as I call them, because I'm adopted too, and I was adopted around that same time when all the Korean kids came over, so I have a connection with them. And I love my Korean imports, and Tony Leonetti's one of my favorites of all time. And his sister is going to take care of him in the meantime. It's actually a nice little, that shows how Josh gets from point A to point B to point C. It's pretty well thought out.
Yeah, you got to wonder if we had...
And we get this other side character and see these connections, which is fun.
You got to wonder
the spaghetti thing's a nice touch because it's Kenneth has this elaborate backstory for all these characters, only some of which he really can justify getting into the show, right? And this is his little wink, at least, at the Leonetti story, which that family would have been something had Kenneth stayed in charge of the show. So.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Even with Josh, were we going to get? Was Josh going to play a bigger part in the overall
certainly
story?
He was.
Yeah, because you just don't invest.
Thing. You don't get more than 2 more scenes with him, and they're as brief as can be. One, I don't think he has one line. So
well, but he's a major part of the final battle, if you recall.
Oh yeah.
Where he doesn't talk much. But
yeah. But I mean, that's
he just cries and stands around like the weakling little frightened child that he is.
But he's got his toys.
He's got his toys, and
he had them.
He's got the mothership at home, you guys.
Yeah,
I know.
It would that would have actually been the best moment is if he was like, do you remember where Sean put the key? Do you remember where he put it? And then like he walks him and then suddenly Donovan's like, what, this isn't the house. He's like, I know, I just wanted to show you the mothership. And then he was like, what?
All right, we've spent too long on this scene.
All right.
The point is, the visitors came in the night, took the whole town.
Yeah, they
the
wiped
whole
them
town,
out.
and the rednecks who came on their jeeps with their automatic weapons were useless. They were beyond useless against the visitors. So what's going on? Why didn't they just gun everybody down? Where did they take them? What's happening? It does leave this kind of taste in your mouth. And Tommy Peterson, as much as he can, like Joel said, it's, you know, he's in shock and scared and doesn't know what to make of what he saw, but he still describes it in this traumatic way that affects Donovan and makes him want to find out more, journalist that he is.
And based on his story too, we also get the insight into, like you said, that they're being taken, not destroyed, which we will see more of later in a different venue. And then it just starts to build this what is going on scenario.
They're rounded up and herded away.
And then, so if you're dear listener, if you remember last week, I had jumped ahead because coming up next is actually one of my favorite. Is this
where the pool confrontation happens?
This is Danny. We cut back to the what is it, the Bernsteins? I always forget. Yeah, the Bernstein.
Yeah.
Cut back to the Bernstein household where Danny has firmly taken the role of the head of the household.
They call him Danny. They always call him Daniel.
Yeah, Daniel. Time. I don't know why the titles call him Danny. Maybe that's what Robin calls him, and that's how we get Danny. But
could be, and he might take the more formal Daniel because that's what the visitors, they all do that. They all have the most formal version of their Christian names.
Sure.
Such as it is. So Stephen, and I mean, it's not formal, but they're always, you know, nobody calls Stephen Steve or stuff. You know what I mean?
The show is lesser for it, in my opinion.
Well, but okay. So am I jumping ahead? Because if we're talking about the pool sequence, this is the part where Daniel pulls the gun. Correct.
Yeah, so this is the toast. So he's gathered everybody around the table. He's going to toast it. He's like,
got the champagne.
To my impending nuptials.
Right.
Right. But did we gloss over what I thought was one of the best scenes was when Bonnie Bartlett and the husband character, the Bernsteins, are whispering about Daniel. Do you know what I'm talking? Was that after this, or did we gloss over that last?
No, it's before this. We would have.
I think that's one of the best scenes in the whole thing. And so anyway, moving ahead.
His Daniel's father is bitching about Christine Walsh on the TV. It's all obviously connected in a brilliant way. And how the media is it's not clearly not telling them everything. And he's all pissed off about it. And she shushes him and says, "What are you doing?" She's like, you know, you live with a
sympathizer.
Right. You know, and he's like, well, he does the two things that a frightened person would do. The first thing is like, well, I wasn't really complaining. I mean, blah, blah, blah. And then they both kind of look at him and innocently, and Packer plays this brilliantly because obviously he's an actor who knows the context of the shot, but he's a character who has no idea what's going on in the other room. And he just does this, "Hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
But
he sits down to read a magazine. Well, because the thing is, it's like after he sits, they look at him. And I think this is important, obviously, to go into the pool scene that we kind of but it's also, I think, one of the most powerful things. I mean, Bartlett's, just like we said, is fantastic, but just those, like, they're just kind of looking at him, you know, it's like, you know, because they don't know. He's like, "Oh, I just went to the bathroom." But even as the audience, we're like, did he just go to the bathroom or did he make a phone call?
Right.
You know?
He just went to the bathroom.
But that leads directly into that's important for the pool.
But he's fully capable of making that phone call, and his mom kind of knows that about him.
Yeah. Yeah, she sees that in him.
He's still a person. I mean, you know, when we're about to get to it, but when this stuff starts to go down, he also doesn't really get his own situation or what's going to happen.
Yep.
No, just fundamentally doesn't understand it. Never really does until it's way, way too late for him.
Right.
But you know, we still see him that he loves his parents and stuff. Yeah, he almost just shot his dad out of having a temper tantrum, but.
Yeah, but that sequence.
But that's shoving him in the pool. That's dramatic, but it's a form of humiliation. And Daniel's a kid who responds to power plays and teasing and humiliation in a really, really harsh way. And that's a big part of his character. Big part of the reason he loves being part of the visitors is because nobody F's around with him anymore. And he totally digs that, obviously.
But I think
he's embarrassed. I was gonna say he's embarrassed multiple times here because he's like, our impending, I got my impending nuptials. I'm marrying Robin.
Robin's
and
like, no,
because I know what's going
Abraham
on.
throws the champagne in his face.
Yeah.
It's all, he's acting like a big baby. So it's not like he doesn't exactly deserve these things. When he's physically assaulting Robin, getting shoved in a pool is not the end of the world, but it's not a coincidence that all these little things are humiliations. They are designed to take him down a peg, and he's not going down anymore pegs anymore.
I don't know if this is true though, because other than maybe Eleanor, but I don't know if this is, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first time where we've seen one of our central human characters where we actually fear them? Do you know what I mean? Because once he's shoved into that pool,
with Eleanor, who does something really twisted in a few moments.
But it's like to see Daniel humiliated. I mean, what is going to happen next. And I think that as an audience member, this is pretty terrifying because
he's on an unstoppable collision course with his own neighbors and with his own parents and his own grandfather. And he's this Jewish kid, and it's just, the irony is really, really thick and terrible. And it's But
I think the really writing good. Did very well to set this up for us to have that reaction of, this is really terrifying. What is going to go down next?
Well, because and Robin, every time she sees him, what about Brian? Did Brian say anything about me? I mean,
Brian did. How?
No, that's all.
Let me do my delivery. Brian is it this? It's he says, "Oh, what?" And she's like, "Brian." Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Brian. Robin Maxwell.
Hormones get the best of you again.
But
it's also hormones that is driving Daniel in a lot of ways.
In a major way.
He wants Robin so badly, and it doesn't help that she's so clueless about what he wants.
It's hard to say how badly he even wants her. He just wants her and thinks he deserves whatever he wants.
No, before I'm saying initially it was
he's got a crush on her, but you don't get the sense that he's been a jerk about it at all. In fact, you get the sense of the opposite. He's been Mr. Happy to be in the friend zone sort of neighborhood kid.
He's been friend zone guy, and then now that he's got power, it's all about,
why shouldn't I have her?
Why? Yeah,
right.
It's not like she has any choice. What's her dad gonna do? Complain to the authorities? I mean, they're hiding out in our pool house. He puts all this together, and this is his big power play, and it goes wrong.
It goes awry.
And we talked about it twice now. We got to keep going.
But of course the Maxwells aren't in the pool house anymore. When
the authorities show up, they're not in the. I mean, he does call the authorities on them as a result of this incident, so that they don't show up later in this scene, but they do show up to capture the scientists hiding out in the pool house.
Yeah, so he makes the call. He makes the call on him, cuts a deal.
We don't see that, but it clearly has happened. Yeah. And they just find Abraham quietly praying in the corner of the pool house. And what does he say to him?
He just says, "Shalom."
But isn't this the last time we say Abraham? This is it.
Well,
right?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it doesn't bode well for any of them. Daniel, doesn't think this is going to happen, but his grandfather is gone. His parents are both taken away as a result of his informing on them.
Yes.
They're all gone, and he's left in the house by himself in a full-on panic that his actions have caused his family to be who knows what. He really doesn't know. Well, but I think he knows that what the visitors are capable of deep down.
Right, but he's also the fact that he is innocent enough to believe that they're going to spare them.
Right. Not only that,
I trust you.
Exactly. Not only that everything's going to be okay. And I am skipping a little ahead, but since this is all connected, let's go ahead and do it. But Brian actually comes over to calm him down and brings him the ring. There's this whole sequence where the collaborators, Eleanor, and they're all getting these gifts from the visitors. And
Jeez Louise.
And Brian's like, "Hey man, don't worry, it's okay." Hey, and he's like, "Well, what about my grandfather?" And he's like, "Well, your grandfather unfortunately is very sick, but I'm told we're doing everything we can to help him." And it's just sickening. It gives you this sick feeling in your stomach.
But I think one of the benefits
seriously, it's like your cat is on the roof. That's the equivalent of what that statement is to Daniel. It's all meant to placate him so that when he does have to tell him Abraham's gone, it's, well, at least we tried to help him. It's just
well, tell me if I'm wrong, because I feel like I read into a little bit of, it's Packer, David Packer is the actor, yeah. Right? Watching him in that scene with Brian, I think is interesting. Shut up, Joel. I find it interesting. Joel. I find it interesting since he says I say that all the time, but that's the Klug tick. It just won't go away. But I find it interesting that as you're watching him be kind of schmoozed by Brian, you still see a little sense of there. I don't know there. I feel like I got a little bit of sense that there's a little bit of problem. There's problems in his head, but you kind of see.
Well, he doesn't believe him because what he's saying is unbelievable. It's not true. It's a bold-faced lie. His decision. And it really is a decision by the character. He's got to decide whether he's going to play along with the propaganda or whether he's going to. Reality is, and Daniel maybe doesn't like to accept this, but he has no choice. His only choice is to play nice and hope maybe he has his family returned to him. And that's what he does. But he doesn't believe it. At the same time, he's taken by it. He's been schmoozed. They're down in the break room and they're about to have an uprising and make all their demands, and management comes in with a pizza party for them and everybody gets distracted.
That's exactly it.
That's totally what's happening here. And so nothing comes of it. Even if those primal concerns are still there, the ring, the little pep talk, it's all done its work.
And let's be honest, we talked about how attractive Brian is. I mean, even to a little straight kid, it's still, this guy's got charisma. And, so it's like it's an easy sell, especially for someone like Daniel.
And to take a step outside to the actor, Peter Nelson, who is a really good actor and who's a producer now. He's still in the business. He was too generic, a good looking guy really to be of much use in too much. He was always... He had played the kind of roles he could, but it's hard to see him starring in his own show or something, even though he has all this natural charisma and whatever. But he's fantastic.
We'll see later. There's a moment from him later that's just unnerving.
That's just cold-blooded. They all have their little cold-blooded moments, and he's got a great one. But this is good. It's a good turn by the actor, and it's this great idea that the visitors, and this is implied but never stated, but that they've studied our history, that they are doing things that they know work on us. Mm-hmm. That it's more than just their natural tendency is toward propaganda and deception and all this stuff. That that's part of it, but the big part of it is they've seen how we've gone bad in the past, and they make the gamble that not enough of us will have learned from it. And
of course,
right. They're absolutely right.
Question for you, Michael. When your husband,
you find this interesting, Michael?
I find something. Sorry, go ahead.
My question for you, Michael, was that when your husband proposed to you, did he do it like, were you sitting at a table and he walked in uniform and slid this ring?
Well, we were both in uniforms, just of different colors.
That's true. You were in the
So it was very similar. We tailored it after that. We thought that was a really classy, lovely way to do it. To model it after aliens that are mimicking the Holocaust.
You guys could have gone full on Officer and a Gentleman. He could have picked you up and carried you off out of the room at the end.
Well, let's be frank. From my point of view, I find this interesting. Now you're never going to make me shut up about it.
Hey, I just wanted to. I didn't know if you were aware of it.
I was aware. Okay. I'm a repeater. I can't help it. But I, in my head, maybe not as a child watching this, but watching it this last week or 2 weeks ago, I like the possibility of the Daniel Bryan hookup. That makes me happy.
There's got to be some Daniel Bryan fanfic.
Well, I mean, like you got Winter Soldier and Cap America. They've got memes, so maybe that should be something I should strive to do. Is a Bryan Daniel hookup.
If it's happening anywhere in this story, that's where it's happening. I would agree.
Well, we don't know what happens after that, right?
Maybe, I think it when Brian comes in, he says, and there's
one other possibility which we'll get to. One major character that we have not even really been introduced to. We've seen him lurking in the background, but an important guy that we're about to find out about.
I have a feeling maybe it was when Brian walks in. He goes,
that you also
Daniel,
that I know for a fact you have the hot for.
Daniel, I've made arrangements for you to join my unit.
Huh?
Maybe that's where.
Ooh.
That's exactly what I saw when I was 8 years old. I'm like, God, yeah.
I want
to mind.
There you go.
My filthy 8-year-old mind.
So let's
not you.
I'm
talking about Joel.
Yeah, my
Joel's the one bringing like innuendo and puns into this. I appreciate your backstory.
Yep.
I do not approve of the wordplay.
All right. Well, let's hit the eject button and let's head on over to Sancho's pickup.
Yep.
And meanwhile, so that's where the Maxwell family is they are hiding in a secret smuggling compartment in Sancho's.
Because he's had some experience at this, as he says.
Yep, he has.
Smuggling people over borders,
right,
and through checkpoints. Racist, a little bit, but it also sort of. I mean, it makes a lot of sense in the story that suddenly this skill set. That we've been frowning on as a law-abiding society is like a really useful thing to know a friend who's smuggled people before. Right.
But this isn't the first time.
And Sancho steps up to help them.
Yeah. And this isn't the first time that the show has used like a racial, I mean, the whole Caleb thing, you know, now I got to deal with them taking my job. So it's so it didn't feel out of place to me because they've already kind of addressed certain stereotypes or whatever. So to have it in here, it makes sense, but it is practical.
It's because it's fun. The reason you accept it is obviously because the only like Mexican heritage character in the thing is, you know, smuggling wetbacks into California or whatever. The reason you accept it is because there's a reversal here, a big time reversal.
And I obviously I wouldn't know the socio-political ramifications of that, but you know, this was the 80s. This was full on Reaganomics. Yeah, this was full on Reaganomics. You know, it's Reagan era. You know, sentiment towards illegal immigration wasn't exactly at an.
It wasn't vilified like it is now.
Wasn't totally vilified, but still, there was a sense. There was always a, you know, we got to secure the border. We can't have, you know, we got America for Americans and things like that. And so to have this, I think it's another great little political commentary thing. You know, that does, again, like you said, because he's doing it on the side of the good guys.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's what Johnson succeeded at. He took something what would be considered a stereotype and made, you know, Sancho this kind of 3-layered, very decent, good person, you know, that, and, you know, the fact we get to see other stuff of him later, but it's like that's why it makes the use of that trope acceptable, because it expands upon him as he's a good, decent human being.
Yeah, and set up properly. Yeah, and again, like you were just saying, Michael, and set up properly because he has that scene earlier when he's like, I can't work for you anymore. I really, I'm in a bind here.
And now here he is saving their lives. Like he's not a gardener. Like you say, he's a complicated, well-rounded character. The scene where their toddler is, I can't remember her name, but she's just whining and crying and complaining. And he comes back with the little Hershey bag of Hershey's Kisses. And
which Robert's don't help, by the way.
Which don't help.
My God.
I don't blame Sancho. I don't blame Sancho, but
no.
I'm like,
they would help if they would have been parsed out in a slower way. He goes through.
Oh, to like keep her like a dog treat. You know, you're going to keep him in control with rather than start just shoveling him in.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's my take. We don't see what happens in the back of the truck.
What's the younger daughter's name?
I don't remember.
Because isn't she a little damn old to be that whiny?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I was, but I agree. It's those little trinkets, and I think this speaks to, and it's worth repeating of what we've talked about before, that even these sort of secondary characters like Sancho, who don't play a huge role in it, but they're still interesting in their breathing.
Order crossing, we revisit these two cops in a really key way. In particular, bad cop, we know what his philosophy is, but good cop, we're now starting to see the things that he's willing to do on the side of humanity. He hears her bitching and moaning.
And
they say, what, is something happened back there? And he says, nope, everything's fine.
It gives him a look.
Yep.
But this begs the question.
And the Maxwell family survives because he takes the brave step of pretending he didn't hear that they were in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But this begs the question, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but as far as, I guess it's not too far ahead, but when Sancho returns, who blabbed?
That's a good question. Eleanor blabbed.
That's true. She blabbed. You're right.
She found out something.
They probably put the two things together. I don't know how she puts two and two together. She's sitting at her window reading a book or something.
No, she's walking down the street and hears it.
And hears them.
Is that right?
Yeah.
She hears the people in the back of the truck.
She hears the crying. She hears the non-Hershey's Kiss crying.
Sancho's her gardener too, so she informs on him.
Yeah.
That news doesn't get to the checkpoint in time for them to stop. They're able to get through, but on his way back, he gets busted.
But I also want to talk about Sancho's choice of the onion, which is a great comic moment.
Oh my God, that was great.
And it's so brilliant. It's just like it. But again, it's such a creative thing. Who would have thought of that? Except Sancho.
Prepared, as Robert says.
It's so smart.
Chewing on the onion so that nobody wants to get too close to him, and they just want it all to be over. It's all
get him through.
Yeah, Sancho's a great one, and seeing him, feeling that V does this to us several times, feeling that sense of fun and victory. This whole sequence where you get through the checkpoint is tense and fun. Nobody gets shot or killed. It's exciting and fun. Yeah. And then to see the reversal, to see him arrested when a couple scenes later when he's coming back. Yeah. And you're just like, well, he's screwed. That's it. We're never going to see that guy again. Mm-hmm. And it feels awful. So he just does a great job of that throughout, these little moments which turn on themselves, Yeah. The great scene in the newsroom is one where, here it comes, we're going to get the word out and the whole thing's going to change. Nope. And he gets the Maxwells to safety, but he pays the price for it in a major, major way. And it's harsh to see that. Yep. Yeah. How did Good Cop get away with it is the bigger question. Since it's
we're not
clearly a hidden compartment in the back of a truck. I mean, did he even open the back of the truck? He didn't.
No.
He kind of rustled around in the stuff that's on the top of it, but he didn't, Yeah. But they didn't. Obviously, they don't suspect him or whatever. He was being very careful.
But that's not the last we've seen of Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Not the very last, no. But this is his big, to me, this is his big moment.
Well, yeah.
I disagree. Later moment is better for me for the Good Cop. As far as just
he's not active in the later moment.
No, but it's a joyful moment anyway.
It's great. It's great payoff for the character. Yeah. This is where we see who the character is.
Who he really is. Yeah.
In this moment. Rather than that one, which is, I agree.
But that's again, it's just a good example of this guy's not even a secondary character. I mean, he barely has 2 lines, and we know who he is. That's good writing. I
agree. The cops are the perfect example of this. Who these people are. There are other very small characters who have their moments too, but these guys are great.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, so then after that, then we get a little shootout here. We get a little fish out. We get a little oh my God, wait, we get a little action going on. So then we have oh my gosh, why am I'm blanking on the specifics here.
What happens? What does the chapter title say?
It's just called Shootout. It's right before. It's just called Shootout.
Shootout.
I think this is where I think Mike has snuck back on the. Has Mike snuck? Is this where Mike sneaks back on?
Or is this where he goes to Christine? No, he's already on the run, right?
Yeah, Mike is most wanted man amongst the visitors because of the videotape and because they know he knows their secret. But this must be him and Tony trying to get back on, and this time Tony's not going to trip. He says,
"Yeah."
This is a fantastic sequence too. They've got
that's exactly what this is. This is them they're getting back on the gunfight.
Donovan's got the rifle and he gives us the little how the visitor rifles work.
Yes.
And tutorial, and they're gonna go and they're gonna make some noise because Donovan's got the key, etc. like that key, the whole going back for the key, it ends up at the end of this sequence that it's not needed at all or was not put to good use at all. But this is the scene where we see one of the visitors' special abilities. They get detected and they start getting shot at. And apparently all those laser blasts, they were the most expensive part of V, to animate them. Each frame, like that's how you had to do it back then, and that they had to use them sparingly in the original miniseries.
That's true.
They got good at automating that. Even that one, that you don't see a laser blast in that scene. That's notable. The very first time we hear one, we don't see it.
Yeah, we don't see it. Yeah.
So this shootout is an expensive sequence as far as it goes. They're at some. He's wanting to go find his kid. Mike doesn't care about the cause. He doesn't care about anything. That's true.
Yeah,
they kidnapped his son, and all he really cares about is getting his son back.
But that's a nice testament to Tony as a character, that he's going to go along. I mean, he knows what because he's told Mike has told him at this point that Sean's missing.
Yeah, we assume.
I don't know if we saw it on camera, but
we've seen the connection between the family handing Josh off and everything, so we know that they're talking to each other.
But that he's going to go on this mission. You know, because I don't think Tony's on for the cause right now. He's just going to help his buddy.
And Donovan, right? They're partners. He says that. What's he say at the very beginning? No, we go out together, man. And what's he say in the newsroom? It's all the same stuff. It's you and me, bro. That's how it's going to be. Tony, when I was a kid, was my favorite character in the show.
Yeah,
he was my favorite character in the show.
It's his credit reaction
by far.
Is that what it is? It's profile.
That's not very good, but I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, Ryan Harris. Damn it.
It gives Evan a little moment of seeming like he's a very thoughtful, intuitive character, when really what he is a very loyal, reactionary, and extremely funny character. He's maybe the only flat-out funny character next to some of Elias's bits. Or I guess Willie is pretty damn funny, but not on purpose.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. He's the comic relief. He's the sidekick that everybody loves.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I didn't envision myself as the big hero with the buttons all the way down to his belly button. I envisioned myself as the guy tagging alongside him, making jokes that I could imagine myself being effective at. And I love Tony. And this scene where he kind of jumps in, he sort of saves the day for a moment until one visitor gets really ornery for getting his face kicked off. Evan Kim knows a little martial arts, and it's in a lot of the stuff that he does as an actor, and he gets to do a little bit of it here, but he kicks this visitor's face off, and the visitor reels back and spits this goo on him.
Yeah.
As lizards in nature are known to do, and it hits him in the face and it blinds him, and then the whole mission goes to hell. Donovan gets shot, Tony can't see, they're both dragged into the shuttle that they were trying to infiltrate. And who knows what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Well, we also see the Bernsteins at this point being loaded in.
Right. They're going to be on the same shuttle. That's a good point.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that what I've always read as far as like online and Wikipedia and everything is that that moment with Tony and the lizard spit was the inspiration for Nedry. It wasn't really. I just thought I'd say that. Mind.
All right. So
we know that Independence Day could have ripped it off if it could have.
That's true. If it would have wanted to.
Look, they are inspired by the same thing, I think is the important thing. Lizards and reptiles do this in nature.
Yeah.
So the fact that the lizard man can do it or that the dinosaur can do it, I mean, it is connected evolutionary wise.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not too far off.
So
and Tony is not Nedry.
So
it sucks that this happens to Tony. It
does suck that this is bad that it happens to Tony. The plan to sneak back on the ship doesn't exactly go well, but they do end up back on the mothership,
yes,
which so I guess plan.
Sorta
That's
works.
about a 60% success. I still sort of made it on.
It's less than 50 for sure.
But we do. So while,
even though a lot of important things happen here, it's less than
Yeah.
50. It's inherently less than 50%.
So I was trying to silver line that sucker. But meanwhile, so then we cut back to Viva la Resistance, their headquarters. And
Elias is setting them up with this. I don't know if it's there anymore. If it is, Michael, you should take a sojourn.
Try and find it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was part of every TV show made during this era. This real location that's I don't know what it used to be, but it's this older,
it's like a water plant or something.
Yeah, like a waterworks building.
Yeah.
In a bad part of LA that Elias has set them up with as a hideout, and it works as a great hideout for them.
That's one of my favorite things. I remember watching this entire both miniseries and all the series.
Did we miss the funeral? We missed the funeral, which is my favorite scene in the whole second.
Oh my goodness! Yes, we did miss that. That came.
We really can't skip that.
Thank you for thinking of that.
But Elias, a very sober and somber Elias, trying to do his best to further his brother's legacy and to help out his friends, has introduced them to this place where they really will be safe. And he even says, I've talked to the gangs in the neighborhood.
They're going to handle it. Yeah.
They're going to keep a lookout on you. They're going to take care of security for you. It's very, criminal sort of badass moment that he has, except you can tell that he's still in mourning, really. He's still not over these changes in his life. And Juliet knows that too and acknowledges, and she thanks him and just kind of gives him that,
So let's cut to right before this at the funeral. So we're at Caleb's funeral.
There's not much to this scene. They're coming out of the funeral for Ben. Obviously, it's a really classic sort of African American funeral setting. We don't see the rave up that went on inside, but just the way people are dressed and stuff. It's you really get the sense of that. And
Willie shows up.
Willie and Harmony show up. Willie's
Willie's full on thinking, I'm Caleb's friend.
Right.
I saved him.
We're pals. We did the high five. That means something.
You showed me how to high five. And
Jason Bernard's reaction to him, it really is the most powerful. There have been some great stuff from Leonardo Cimino, from all the way down the line. We got Bonnie Bartlett. We talked about these emotional moments.
Yeah.
Bernard's absolute breakdown at being confronted with this visitor at his son's funeral, who he completely blames for his son's death. It's
well, Elias has to hold him back. Yeah.
And it's this perfect mix of anger and grief and devastation. It all happens in the scene.
Yep.
And
Willie's so confused. Willie's so confused.
And that's also
and Harmony's like with him, thinking you can almost
they're doing
get
the right
sense that
thing.
She encouraged him to come do this.
Yeah.
And this is all just exploding in their faces.
Yep. The only thing that Harmony could have done is to have been like, hey, maybe don't wear the uniform.
I got some nice street clothes my brother left.
Let's go to a Salvation Army. Let's go to let's go to that and let's see if we can.
It's nothing worse than watching a police procedural, and the police don't really give a shit who died, and you don't really meet anybody who knew the person who did. There's no importance in mortality. Same thing. I mean, by design, a lot of horror movies leave you out of that part of the process because you're watching this to have fun, and it's fun to watch people get knocked off. It's not fun to realize that their parents' lives have been changed forever in an awful way. Like you don't want to see that stuff in certain settings. In this setting, seeing it full-blooded like it is shown, and it's just really, really powerful. And
but what's really cool about it is that it's not something that pushes the plot forward. It is only a character moment for Caleb. That's it. It doesn't do anything.
Well, a little bit. It's character moments for Willie, for Harmony, for
Elias, but I'm saying it is
Caleb.
not a plot scenario. It is only to help establish these characters, which is why, how smart is that?
Ben, who hasn't had a lot of screen time, is also served by seeing what his loss meant to these people. He's a really important character, night one, and like a lot of really important characters in V that suddenly aren't with us anymore.
Yeah.
their absence is felt. The role that they, the role that they fit into is an important role. Tony's role is important. Abraham's role is important. Ben's role was really, really important to Juliet, to Elias.
But what's so smart about that, though, is that because everyone is so intertwined and in so many ways, that's why you feel that loss, because, Elias is feeling it. Caleb is feeling it. Juliet's feeling it. Willie's got some, all these people that had some experience with Ben. If it were just one character, it might not be as much. But yeah, I think you see all these other characters reacting because they all had interactions. And that's, I think, one of the beauties of the way the characters are connected.
And that's a perfect transition to get us back into the Resistance headquarters, because we see, Elias did this for Juliet. Because Juliet was close to Ben. And so
he very much,
we see,
at least in the original miniseries, he very much is her right hand man from here on out.
Yep, and
which is something she needs. That's what Ben was to her, and it was important.
And
you see her stand up to Brad in the first meeting. She needs somebody to kind of have her back, and it works out great.
And so and so when they're in there, and everyone, they're trying to figure out how to set up this headquarters, and who do they ask? They're asking Juliet. So suddenly Juliet is realizing, oh man, I think
I'm not just part of the Resistance.
I think I might be the one in charge here. And Juliet's having, and then it's like oh man, I'm not made for this.
She has a little breakdown.
The pipe scene with Ruby.
Ruby, yep.
And this is lovely.
Yeah, and that's where I think I don't know. Is this the Ruby scene, or is this just her having? I think this is the Ruby scene where Ruby essentially tells her,
we look to you.
We look to you. This is, and you need to trust yourself.
And you're just as sad, as confused as the rest of us. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, well, just fake it. I don't think we'll know the difference.
Well, no, what I was going to say earlier about this first Resistance headquarters, one of the things throughout the entire franchise that I've always loved is obviously they have to constantly switch locations, but just the various random places. That's one of my favorite things about this whole thing. It's just like how they switch.
First and arguably best one, but there are a whole bunch of cool ones.
But I love that. That's one of my favorite things.
For very cool, even in Final Battle, which doesn't pay as much heed to this stuff, but the final battles where all the headquarter changes happen, and they end up in certain places for very thematic reasons, which is pretty good writing. It's like what the big event that happens in the prison, for example. It's not a coincidence. The questions of trust and who's pretending and who isn't at the movie studio hideout. You know what I mean? It's very clever stuff, in case we don't get to it, since you brought it up. And they end up, spoiler alert, but they end up at a lighthouse. Not bad. Not bad, to show the rest of the world the way.
There you go.
Damn, that's a deep dive if ever there were.
Well, I skipped way ahead. I apologize, Joel, but I just thought, in case that doesn't come up again, Michael brought it up here. So the locations have meaning. They have deep thematic meaning. So the part of what's great about V is it has all this stuff. It's why we're able to talk about it for so long.
So even though the rest of the Maxwell family and they had this harrowing escape, and they're out into the mountains,
they've actually found they've gotten hooked up with the Resistance camp in the mountains.
But
they're with like-minded other scientific people who are,
but Dad Maxwell decides
California, Michael. Yeah. I mean, unless you go out into the desert, you're really not hidden from anybody, almost no matter where you are.
Yeah.
You can go into the redwoods, but eventually someone's going to notice you there, even though it's a big place. It's like they head out to what appears to look a lot like the MASH camp at MASH.
But while Juliet is having doubts,
the topography is the same. Some of the sets appear similar as well. Interesting.
Yeah. So while Juliet is having doubts about whether she can lead this resistance or not, Robin Maxwell is proceeding with the unearned confidence of someone her age.
Robin is back, everybody.
Yeah,
she's back in LA.
She's back in LA. She convinced her dad that she needed to go to the mall or something.
And I'm telling you, we can't blame. Now we can't blame Robin at all. We know what Robin is. What on earth did Robert? Well, how did he let himself get bullied into bringing his teenage daughter back to LA? I get why he felt he had to come back, but once they found the mountain camp and he finds out there's a resistance movement that needs scientists. Okay, but you brought your teenage daughter because you got bullied into bringing her back by her, and that's ridiculous.
Well, this is where I think maybe there is a little bit of sloppiness in writing. One, we don't know how they got back in. As fucking
as hard as it
was to get them out. How did they get back in? And we get no explanation. But that's two, exactly why on earth would you bring Robin back? If anyone at all, there shouldn't have been. All the rest of the family should have stayed, And so it's a little clunky,
Fellas, spoiler alert for V, the original miniseries. But at this point in the story, things are not going good for our heroes at all. Yeah, and you literally just brought a time bomb into the room. We all know it. We've seen it up to this point, and now the stakes
we know
are
she
raised.
Can't behave.
Exactly, and now the stakes are raised to the point that any sort of Robin slip up is doom for everybody. And and I guess we have, before we get to what that slip up is, because it's coming, we have some really important exposition and a all new, very attractive visitor character. I don't mind saying, as a straight gentleman.
So we're back up. So we're back up in on the mothership. Mike has been captured. He's awaiting. Diana wants to see him, and blah blah blah. So he's in his little tiny room, and this was a very important moment in my childhood too.
No, we're not at that point yet, are we?
Oh, not yet.
We're not at that point yet.
We're here. We're still we're in buying time.
You're just getting too excited.
All the important reveals of V the original.
Well, it is
just
important
to get to the naked hot chick. By the way, Joel, I'm going to make note of this in your file.
Anyway, my plot.
Maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me I'm wrong.
Here's the thing: my plot synopsis, as it's written out here. It doesn't, there's a lot of things that are happening concurrently.
Yeah, it's true.
So a lot of this is happening at the same time. What
I didn't say you were a bad host. I said you were a horny little boy. That's what I was accusing you
that
of.
I think that's on my business card. So that's just pretty well known.
There's a great scene where Donovan, who's been captured and is beaten up and bloody, is dragged past this ante-room where Christine is sitting down.
Oh yeah.
And it's really a great visual. She's seated on this little bench, and all these headless, because they're out of frame, visitor uniforms are surrounding her, and she's just sitting there chatting with them, and she catches Donovan's eye out through the door, and you can see the expression on her face go from "I'm king of the humans with the V people" turn to, "Oh my God, that's the man I love, and what's going to happen to him? It can't be good." She's seen enough at this point to know it can't be good. And the visitor that Donovan meets before he meets Barbara is Martin. And Martin, it comes at a great time because I'm about to lose my favorite character in the series. So Martin shows up just in time to pick up a little bit of the slack. He's a fantastic character played by a really good actor who unfortunately was just forced to do the Murder, She Wrote sort of guest star syndicate after this. Like Frank Ashmore, who's fantastic. It doesn't, I mean, he had a great career, but to me, he never got to play a guy as cool or as substantive, or frankly, for a lizard person, as emotionally interesting as this guy is.
Yeah.
And it bums me out that was Love Boat for him from now on.
Yeah.
But he is that kind of actor too. Like all the visitors, Andrew Prine, they all have this sort of generic, attractive normalness to them. Willie being the big exception. He looks a little odd.
Yeah. They got a weird mold on his human skin.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It went wrong, or it had something to do with.
He got misplaced as well and retransferred. So everything's just up in the air for Willie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because of course he was supposed to go to the Middle East, and so the visitors would choose Euro American costume guy, to put on this lizard skin.
Frank Ashmore,
because we've done our research on your planet, so we know that sending a white American looking guy into the Middle East is going to make everything go smooth.
With weird curly blonde hair and a receding hairline. And,
Yeah.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Martin's part of something called the Fifth Column.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan thinks Martin's coming to, take him out, and he's actually coming to rescue him and give him some much needed answers. Am I right, boys?
Yes,
you are.
But I don't. Before we move on ahead, one of my favorite moments watching this a couple weeks ago, I find it interesting.
It's fine if you want to say it. I just didn't know that you were.
What I loved about it is that Diana could be manipulated.
Yeah,
and I loved that.
Yeah,
watching him, like, oh well, okay, whatever you. But he's like, and she's.
You're gonna kill him? I thought you were gonna
convert him. Oh, he's too tough. Well, you do. I thought you liked the challenge, Diana.
What does she say? She says, my studies have shown that he would be very difficult prospect, and they'd be better off we just get rid of him. I thought you would have. I thought you would have liked the challenge of a difficult subject. And she's trying to stand her ground, but you can tell her ego can't handle the fact that she's.
Oh my God! But it's a great moment. One, that she can be manipulated. Two, that her ego is so big that she would make a poor choice.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a great introduction to Martin too, because you don't know what he is yet, but you know that he's not on equal standing with her. He's sort of
right below her somewhere.
Yeah, just below her on same
and
level
obviously very trusted by her. I mean, if she's taken that kind of talk back or sass back, clearly she respects him.
That's a
but
great
it's
scene.
to see her manipulated, and Badler's. I think she's so good in those little moments, like when she's touching Christine, or this, where you can see her like
just getting totally ruffled by this.
Okay, you're right. Put him, take him, whatever. It's those little moments.
I also want to give props because clearly Diana has been doing some research in fashion magazines and has what is my favorite of her hairstyles, this sort of pulled backy thing. Because she's so beautiful.
In future episodes, they go full dynasty with her, which is fine.
Yeah.
But there's a weird elegance and kind of amazingness to her in the original miniseries that is lost with all the high frizz later.
Yeah, but I mean, and we don't know much about her. We haven't seen a whole lot of her.
Well, we're obviously she's a mover and a shaker, but it's true. Kenneth understands, I think, fundamentally that a little of her goes a long way. This is another thing that further installments didn't understand. They give you her front and center, vamping it up, which Jane's fully capable of doing with great aplomb. So it's a different take, but it was a super popular, obviously, character from the original miniseries that the future installments wanted to
cash in on.
Exactly. And it works, but it's not quite as brilliant as all these collection of little moments that she has here throughout. We think we're going to spend all this time with John, the supreme leader. And once he's made his announcement and does his little stuff, I mean, he pretty much, goes from mothership to mothership, checking everything out, making speeches and stuff. Like,
she's the one.
She's the one that's behind the scientific mission, and as we're about to find out, the scientific mission is the whole ball game.
Yeah.
But
part of Martin's reveal, part of meeting Martin, does mean that we for sure are saying goodbye to one of our favorite, as Ryan mentioned, to one of our favorite characters. The spit to the face.
It's too late for Tony, he says to him. Donovan's like, I'm not leaving without Tony.
Yeah,
and he's got to kind of break it to him.
And it's
you are leaving without him.
You're leaving without him. Pull back the blanket.
They don't show him.
No, well,
which I think is classy because they could have.
They don't pull back the blanket. Donovan puts his hand on his head under the blanket.
It's a really powerful moment,
and just says his name.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. I think that's one of the benefit, or one of the, not benefit, but one of the the really good things about the series is that we're, like you said, with Caleb, and we're able to see the follow through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that helps to endear the characters to us, to see the way they react to their fallen. You know,
you said something last week, and I'm quite certain you were talking about this moment, even though you didn't reveal that you were. But you said you didn't really remember this from watching it before.
No.
I had the same reaction when I first saw this on network TV. I didn't remember it either. When I saw it on reruns a few years later, that I taped off a TV and watched 100 times. Then I remembered it, but I always thought in my mind, in my innocent, you know, it's whatever, 11-year-old mind, I thought, oh, he's just up in there and we'll see him again. You know,
sure.
I didn't remember the scene, and I don't know that it's because it was at a weird time in relation
so you don't
to
have that
commercials,
visual?
or why we don't remember it. You and me, but I believe partly I just didn't want to accept that the scene happened.
It's funny because as I started watching this most recent time, seeing the characters introduced, I know ultimately where they go, but I had no clue where Tony ended up.
Yeah. I think also part of it though is the way the scene is structured, the momentum of the scene. Actually, Tony's reveal, as great of a moment as it is, because we all love
becomes
Tony,
anticlimax to what happens the rest.
Yeah,
of the
because then Mr. Bernstein comes in. How come I can never remember his first name?
Abraham.
No, Dad Bernstein.
Dad. I can never remember his first name.
Stan is
Stanley
brought
Bernstein.
in. Stanley Bernstein is brought in, and they're like, hey, look at our chair of torture here.
Oh, straight out of Empire.
Straight out of, and Donovan is, watches this, Stan.
Wouldn't that be cool if floating torture droid was just off screen a little bit?
But isn't this the point where
and then
Robin is also revealed to be on the ship, correct?
Yeah, so we know Robin is, Robin is.
Of course, we haven't seen her. No, we haven't seen Robin yet. Robin hasn't even.
We're coming to Robin.
But she's not on the ship yet. That's important.
Oh, she's coming on as there. I get it. I remember. Yeah, right.
And so we have so Stanley's on there, and so Martin is like, okay, well, we're not gonna. And Diana's like, okay, well, we're gonna. I'll do it. I'll take your challenge, Martin. Challenge accepted. I shall break Michael Donovan.
How dare you challenge me? But okay.
So Martin is.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, Martin is going to take Donovan to one of the holding cells, and is like, "You got to just give me, you got to give me time. Someone will be there. We're going to help you get off this ship." And of course Donovan's like, "No, we got to go now. I'm doing this. I'm Action Man. Let me
take down another button."
This action guy. And he's like, "No, you got to chill. You got to chill and follow my lead on this. Wait in this room, and someone will be by to fetch you."
Which, by the way, just a little side note: if Frank Ashmore were telling me to follow his lead, that is exactly what I would do. Just saying.
He speaks with great authority.
Indeed, he does.
And we'll get to this later, but every time he aims one of those lasers at something, he hits it.
Boom!
It's so fun.
His lizard eyes are darts.
Because we've seen how many missed shots have we seen? Even just
they're disguised. They're lizardly disguised stormtroopers. That's what they are.
He's a crack shot.
Well, okay, we're
really
ruining Joel's moment. All right, Joel, continue.
Sorry, okay. Joel. So anyway, so Mike is chilling out. Meanwhile, let's see, we got again, because all of these things are happening concurrently. We have let's go ahead and so Robin gets back on. Robin is on the ship, and
she's not on the ship.
I thought
she's not. I'm telling you.
Cross paths.
Well, tell me where she, because this is where we.
It's the second time Donovan goes up to the ship. It is when he walks by Robin. Right now, Robin's not on the ship. She hasn't even left the science place yet. We haven't had any of the blackmail. None of that stuff's happened yet. I'm telling you. I'm sure.
Okay, well, great. Then where are we then?
we're at the point where they're going to hustle Donovan off
Okay,
so that he can escape.
All right. Okay.
And he's about to meet the resistance.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you now. All right. So Mike is so Donovan is hanging out. And that is when the greatest visitor in the entire miniseries arrives, and she is like, "I'm here."
Also a member of the fifth column.
Yes.
And Martin gives a really good explanation. He's like, we're people who don't agree with what our leader's trying to do here. And they're like, well, why didn't you say something before now or whatever? He goes, well, we just hoped he'd get better. He's got lots of charisma. He came to us at a time when we were at our weakest. He had solutions. It happens on your world, doesn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yes, it does. And Donovan doesn't answer that, but I mean, the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. We all are supposed to answer it at home in the living room.
Right.
Yes, it does happen on our world. And there are resistances. Mm-hmm. And it's, like I said, it's another step that Kenneth's storytelling goes, that he created this group of visitor dissidents, that there are these visitor characters that aren't just evil reptiles, that have consciences.
And again, I mean, because at this point, Willie is not, we don't know where Willie's just a cog in the wheel. But what we do know,
ultimate cog,
as of right now, everyone in the fifth column, not only are they sort of not on board with what their leader is doing, they're also the best looking ones.
It's true.
That's true. Well, we've been introduced to Barbara earlier in the
Barbara was at the party
flashback scene where they said, she didn't say much. And it's now, she didn't say much because she just doesn't like playing along with the charade. Mm-hmm. She just, they say that she's shy or whatever, but it's clever that we've been introduced to this character. And now here she comes to give Mike his escape plan.
Yeah. Barbara comes in and says, "Here, you need to take my uniform."
He goes, "That's never going to fit me."
And she's like, "It'll stretch." It's made
I know these uniforms. They're one size fits all.
Yeah, and so
magic alien fabric.
Not only will it fit over it fits over his jeans. Because
that's true.
The male actor is not required to strip, even one who doesn't mind being completely naked at every opportunity.
Well, I think
still
it's
somehow isn't asked to get anywhere near naked in this.
I think it's because Mark Singer skips leg day. And so he was not about
not
to
in my experience. He does not.
No. Not according to Beast Hunter.
And so Barbara disrobes.
Barbara disrobes.
Mike does not. And 8-year-old Michael goes, "Oh,
what?
Yeah.
What the hell?"
But 8-year-old Joel is dancing the dance of joy.
Yeah.
He doesn't know it.
Donovan realizes the serious situation
on the
he's
piano.
in. Yeah. And he gives a little sideways glance to the hot girl in the room who's taking her clothes off, and he says, "You don't look like an iguana."
Yeah.
And she says, "What?" He's like,
"Oh, nothing."
He says, bad taste. At least he admits it, that it's in bad taste.
Yep.
But anyway, by the way, Barbara's played by Jenny Newman.
Jenny Newman. Yep.
Who was in Hell Night, for those who are interested.
Hell Night fame.
Yes, thank you. Hell Night. Oh, now, this is what I'm glad is about that is now we are going to get the crossover listenership
of Hell Night
of the Hell Night listeners.
I think the Jenny Newman fan club showed up for V on its own merits, actually.
Probably. Jenny Newman. So
she's a good actor. She's good in this scene. She has to convince him to shoot her.
Yeah, because she's like, it can't just, you have to shoot me.
Right.
Or
and it's got to be convincing.
It doesn't work. And so
he's like, well, will you live? And she's like, probably. I don't know. There's always a risk. But you got to do it. Period.
And,
it can't look like
it's got to be good. You can't just shoot me in the leg.
Yeah.
It's not you can't just hux me like in the later Star Wars movies, or like you shoot him in the leg. No, you got to shoot me good in order to make this convincing. And shoots her, but what's good about lizards, these visitor lizards, is their heartbeat apparently is in the same place as a human.
I thought that too. Yeah.
Because Donovan does check.
We all have the same jugulars. Even
he could have searched in her inner thigh. That might have been interesting.
That would have been that would have I don't know that would have made it past the network censors, but I'm
just saying for the benefit of young Joel, it might have been an extra treat.
That would have been even young Joel couldn't have handled that. They'd have been scraping pieces.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Joel's head exploded. What happened?
Dad, Joel's head exploded again. But we're led to believe that Barbara has survived the Donovan shot. Gives her a little kiss on her lizard forehead.
Yeah.
And he takes off.
A nice little touch.
Yep. Where in the sort of in the cat. Does he meet up?
I gotta
with
say
Martin?
though, if Barbara deserves a kiss on the forehead, then he needs to go find Martin and make out with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because that's the natural progression. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep. And when we get to that, Martin
who amongst the lizards has done more for the resistance, really, truly.
Who indeed. But so he does meet up with Martin. He's like, take me to my son. And he's like,
he doesn't this time. That comes later too. When
that isn't this one.
Ship.
Oh no, you're right. This is.
Oh, that's right. This is the dude.
He just escapes and he runs into that.
The dude, the big
great side lizard visitor character, another great side character.
Oh my
this
god!
Obnoxious visitor who's like, he says he doesn't like the duty down there. I don't know. I like the duty. He says he doesn't like all the angry people.
You don't talk much, do you?
You don't talk much.
Like, what do you think? He starts talking to Donovan, who's like,
Donovan's
just trying to ride the shuttle down to freedom.
Just trying to get down to the.
It's super fun sequence, you guys.
Yep. It's really
great. What
do
you think? And he's like,
but this is also, isn't this where we said that he sees Robin crossing paths?
This is this is where he sees Robin.
So Robin is being brought on board, which we didn't talk about her getting picked up, but it was another patented Robin Maxwell stupid.
There's not much to it. She
doesn't want to unload the pork and
being trapped in the hideout. She goes for a walk and immediately walks around the corner and bumps into the chest of some visitor.
Sure,
and that's it.
She doesn't want to help unload the pork and beans, and she's been there for 2 hours.
And then she's like, "Where can I get some of that sweet Brian D?" And I'm out of here.
Yeah.
This is gross. There's way too much gray. And I'm out.
There's not a mall within walking distance.
I still feel like that happens after this escape, but whatever.
No, because it does happen.
They cross paths when he goes back on the ship. He still has to meet the resistance, talk to them, and go through all this stuff before any of that even happens. And I believe that's when Robin disappears, and that's when Robin notices that she's gone.
Yes, because when
it all happens in that same sequence.
It is so Donovan meets up with the resistance, and Donovan
has to escape
first.
He escapes from the guy. And this is important, this guy. He's going to come up again, so we got to talk about him. He escapes from this guy who's going to recognize him later when he sees him, this, he's got the black armor on, so he's this security guy, security lieutenant for the visitors.
He's this television actor that's played a heavy in every television series of note for the past 4 years. And he's
fantastic in this because he just keeps talking to him. And Mike, of course, can't talk back because he doesn't have the voice.
Yeah.
He's not going to sound like a visitor. That's the gag. And eventually Singer, the ship lands, and he goes, okay, see you later. Bye. Say goodbye. I'm going to hear you say goodbye. And he's getting this big, massive visitor rifle. He starts shooting at him. And he says, goodbye. And great Mark Singer,
Right. And he drives the truck out of the
Yeah, he pulls a Reginald Denny on the poor dude in that truck who's just a guy. He's not a visitor. And presumably he doesn't get beaten, as he gets pulled out, but he drives this truck out through the gate. It's an exciting, very TV-ish action sequence, but still very cool.
And so then so we cut to Elias and some of the gang,
right?
And they're looking out for visitors, making sure they're on watch.
We see Donovan walking down this dark alley in a visitor uniform, but
we don't know it's Donovan. That's the bit.
No, they don't really show that.
We don't know it's Donovan.
They kind of show it.
So he's walking around, and they're like, "Ha, we're gonna get one. Let's get us one of these guys."
Well, because Juliet, they've all asked, they need a sample. They need a specimen.
They need a subject for them to study. Exactly.
Yeah. So they capture them.
What does Elias say? You hardly ever see them on their own.
and they capture him and they bring him to, essentially put the burlap sack on him and bring him down there. And
it's great. Elias does this thing where he's pretending to lean over the wall and cry. And of course, Donovan, being a feeling guy, comes up to him. Are you okay? It's the classic.
Yep.
What are you doing? And they drop a bucket on his head or something. Or
that's a trash can. Yeah,
it's a trash can. That's right. And then they start. It's total gang kidnapping stuff. It's fantastic.
And then they bring him down.
There's this great tracking shot where they're dragging him with the sack over his head through the headquarters.
Oh yeah.
To Julie. It's really cool. The camera, it's like a steady cam shot where the camera's following him all the way through this little labyrinth while he's kicking and struggling, and they're hooting and hollering. It's very exciting. And then of course they pull the bag off and it's our hero. So not only did they not get a visitor subject, but Donovan and Juliet come face to face in the scene. This is an important,
Mr. Handsome.
It's a really colossal meeting of our two main heroes. And she doesn't believe him. Well, we've seen you with them. Well, aren't you friends with Christine or whatever? Well, blah, blah, blah. And they're all these guys are not anything Juliet says. They're like, yeah, they're not. He's looking for nuances in this situation. They think they've caught a collaborator. There's a great scene earlier that we skipped over where Donovan goes to his mother to ask her for help finding his son. And she's basically told Stephen ahead of time that he's coming. So she's turned her own kid in. She claims it's for his own good, but Michael pointed out rightly last week that this scene really humanizes her. Donovan's father was an alcoholic. They struggled in poverty forever, and she eventually married a rather well-to-do and successful guy. After all that fell apart, and now kind of refuses to look back at their other life. What does she say about the visitors? I know they're not perfect, but they're in power. They are power.
Yeah.
Whose side do you want to be on?
And Neva Patterson is, quick little sidetrack. She's the perfect pinch-faced character or actor to play the role. I mean, it's just, she inhabits it in every possible way. I mean, she's
just contemptible. But even this speech, as you say, you get a sense of her backstory and why she is the way she is, why she isn't going to go hiding in hovels in the bad parts of town with the resistance. This is not going to happen with this woman. Juliet actually is there for the same reason, to reach out to Eleanor to see if, and she sees this all go down or whatever. This is where, or does this happen?
No, that's Christine.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Christine. That's right.
Where Juliet watches her meet up with Mike. And so she knows that Mike isn't a collaborator, but she's
right.
Still...
And that's what Juliet says. She's like, I saw you or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. He's like, okay, talk about a setup. And she's like, yeah, it was a setup. I mean, she admits that's true. You have to look at this from our point of view, though. I mean, look at the places you've been, the people that you hung out with. We're not in a position to just take your word for it. And then
Well, I think what's interesting, you pinpointed this, Ryan, is that this is the first time we see them together. And I think what is of note is the instant attraction between the characters, but also the instant chemistry between the two actors. Right. I've always found their relationship and their charisma together as the actors and as the characters mighty wonderful. Like it's very prominent to me. It always has been, their relationship. And so
Bits of Final Battle go out of their way to make it cheesy and cliche, and yet they can't. It's that, whatever that is, that thing you're talking about, that bit of magic that transcends.
It's there, and the fact that he calls her kid, and
it's very, very real connection for whatever reason. They're very fun to watch on screen together.
Agreed. Yeah,
and it's fun that they come together in this moment at odds. But he draws a picture of the lizard.
He does a brilliant
really
sketch artist.
Sketch.
Yeah, really good. He's like,
wow, you got a sketch artist in the Resistance. How
very
lucky.
detailed sketch.
Pretty good. Yeah. Wow.
Somewhere in here, Robert goes, Robin?
Yeah.
Robin? And he kind of moves off screen. And the same exact thing happens to him. He goes not half a block before he runs right into a bunch of visitors who are like, hey, let's see your papers. What are you doing out after curfew?
Oh, and the
one of the
second
characters,
Maxwell today.
Yeah,
one of the characters played by Stock Pierce, who's a great character actor, who is Visitor Captain, who actually is plays throughout this. But he's kind of like, well, oh, Maxwell, another Maxwell, he says. And Robert's like, what, huh? And he's like, well, I don't know what to do. I guess we'll have to take you up. He's like, no, look, tell me what happened to my daughter or whatever. And this captain, he's a oh
my God, it's so slimy.
He's a slimy guy. He's a very, what do we call it? I always want to call it advantageous, but it's not that. It's
opportunistic.
Thank you. Opportunistic. That is exactly the term I was looking for. Very opportunistic. He sees the opportunity for advancement here, like a lot of visitors of his ilk, especially those in the security division, of which he belongs to, sees this as a way to move up. And he's convinced. He tells him, look, I can get your daughter back. And I don't think she's anything, but you're going to have to tell me where the camp in the woods is.
No, but the slimiest part about it, he's like, look, I'm a father too.
Well, but
it's like, oh,
Robert,
man,
that comes later. Robert is resistant to this. Obviously, he's like, I can't tell you about that. And he's like, well, you never can happen. And he's like, and he goes, you can tell Robert's, it's on the tip of his tongue. He's going to tell him because it's his daughter is going to be killed. That's basically what Pierce is being all diplomatic about it, but he's basically saying the information for your kid's life. That's the deal. And he's Durrell does this. I can't like, he can't say the words. And that's when he puts his arm around his shoulder.
Everyone else is still up there.
Walk with me over here in private. Look, I understand your dilemma.
Yeah.
I'm a father too.
Oh my God.
And he's like, lizard babies.
What if I told you that we would only come and take the mountain camp at a certain time? That way you could warn people there, your loved ones, to get out. And he's like, you could do that? And he's like, this is my favorite line reading of Stock Pierce. It can all be done very easily. Very smooth and calm and
it's so gross. And it's funny because as an audience member, you're watching knowing full well he's being messed with, but looking at it from Robert's perspective, he's desperate. So you understand
the best deal he's going to get.
In this case, it's all Robert's fault. His daughter is in this position. He's nobody to blame but himself. You can hardly blame her. This was telegraphed the entire time. You should know your kid is not reliable. You should not have brought her into this situation. And now she's been busted.
It was the pork and beans that sent her for a walk. So maybe it's the pork and beans.
It's the pork and beans fault. It might be the
I get it. But Robin is what she is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a really powerful scene actually between the two of them.
Robert's not just dad. He's a damned anthropologist. He's seen this behavior her whole life. He's got to know that this is a risk.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a problem the whole way. So I'm just saying I love Robert. I love Robin, but Robert had put himself in this situation. Robin didn't do this to him. I just believe that in my heart. And he does he still doesn't want to say, but he does the cardinal sin of believing this visitor's BS, and it's BS, man.
Oh,
it's
big time.
Silky smooth like Marvin Gaye BS, but it's BS nonetheless. And
look, I'm a father.
I'm a father too. It can all be done.
I'm a father. Your world frightens and confuses me.
Oh my God. It's a good scene, but it's also
fantastic. And we don't see Robert spill the beans, but we know at the end of that exchange that he's about to.
Yeah. Well, and it is a perfect, that I believe we are now at the moment where I keep thinking that we have been all along, is we go from this moment of spilling the beans back up to the ship where Diana is meeting.
I'm sorry, Joel. It's important to note too that Mike makes it clear to Juliet and the rest that the only reason I'm going back up is to find Sean. I could care less about your thing. I think that's important to note before.
No,
he goes.
you're right because
he is given an opportunity here to join with the resistance movement that needs him, and he helps them a little bit. Yeah. And they're not enemies. I mean, they don't distrust each other anymore, but he's like, I'm sorry, I work alone. My partner, my son, my ex-wife, the whole damn town is up on that ship, and I'm going back up there until I find him. Yeah. And he's just escaped from there, but he's single-minded in this quest. Yeah. So he heads back up. Who does he bump into on the way? Robin, Joel. This is where it's happening.
Yeah.
But it's that same dude.
guy. Yeah, the same dude.
Same guy who's say goodbye, dude. Say goodbye.
Yeah.
It's that same guy
And
who's like does the whole. It's a visitor shuttle, but he does the whole hold the elevator kind of thing and comes running.
And meanwhile, Donovan has to be like, okay.
Yeah, he just kind of backs away like Homer into the bush, you know?
Yeah.
But it's funny that I'm looking at it from the perspective of it's got to be a good 10-minute ride up, right? So how
is this
logically, how is this not being discovered? And, you know, it just makes me laugh. But I mean, the setup is good on how it's a good bit of writing when he arrives.
They're trying to create a rivalry between these two characters so that our big final sequence can have more at stake in it. That this is really mercenary writing. It's entertaining, but it doesn't have any deep thematic purpose. That guy has been created so that when we have a big shuttle chase, that the guy on the other shuttle is somebody that we know, even if we barely know him. That's the only reason this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
But it's still better than not having it. It's great that guy isn't anonymous.
Yeah,
I dig it, but the real reveals that are about to happen.
Yeah. So now we're getting to this is where the meat is about to be served. So we cut to so Brian has been summoned by Diana, and again the whole hey, I think you have potential. I think you have. I've been watching.
Yeah, Diana does her usual shtick on him.
And
I've been admiring you for a great deal of time.
Indeed. And
I'm very interested in your progress of your career. It's all that Diana talk. It's fantastic.
And it seems that this Robin Maxwell
is attracted to you.
Taken quite a liking.
She keeps asking for you.
Yeah.
And he's like, the way you're attracted to me. And she gives the whole and he's like, I'm quite serious. And she's like, well, I'd like to perform a little medical scientific experiment. And he's like, what do you have in mind? And the next scene we see is this.
Is Robin in a like a bird in a cage? She's panicked. She's rushing around. Door opens. The man. I guess we'll do quote
Blair
man of her dreams.
Blair is fantastic.
Oh, she's really good.
She's out of her skull, panicking, just like you say, like the bird in the cage that we saw earlier. She's not with it.
No, she's not with it. No.
And he comes in and she runs into his arms and he starts like making out with her.
Yeah,
like
he's doesn't even say like, oh baby, hey, I know this.
No, but this is the moment I alluded to earlier, is that the look over Robin's shoulder, because obviously we know Diana's watching from a two-way mirror.
But before that, we see the change in Robin. We see her go from that panic thing to this.
Oh, this is happening. Yeah.
It's this really innocent thing. Like that's what makes this so awful. And the fact that it's being watched on the other side of a mirror by some evil reptile or whatever. It's like the whole thing is gross and horrible because she's still upset and whatever, but that only makes it only makes her more vulnerable to what happens here, which is that these two have intercourse together in this little holding pen.
There's this just deep level to me in this scene of, I think that the fact that you're going into it and having Diana say a medical experiment, so then you as an audience member start putting those pieces together, and then when you realize that's actually what's going to go down. I mean, this is as grotesque as
it's completely G-rated, but it's heavy with meaning, and that makes it stunning. They're kissing, and you were about to say there's this scene where Robin's lost in this moment. Obviously Brian is anything but. He's performing a scientific experiment, and his eyes are open while he's kissing her,
and he's looking at Diana,
looking around her, and looking at Diana, and even though they can't see each other, they're making this weird eye contact. And
but I think the camera actually then kind of goes in, and you see the reflection of Diana watching them,
grinning at the whole sort of scientific magic of it all.
But I think there's something
creepy.
there's something primally unnerving about this scene. You know, it's just, I mean, it's not only is it you're taking her under false pretenses, you're taking advantage of her, but just the fact that what is the fruit of this interaction? And it's there, yeah, there's something, even as a kid, this was upsetting to me. I remember this being like, that's really creepy, you know, but now looking at it as an adult, I'm like, this is just effed up. It's really
it's the most of all the effed up things in the show to this point. This is the worst, and it continues to pay off as one effed up moment after another until this plays itself out. It is absolute insanity, and like I said, it's awesome. Everything we've endured with Robin up to this point, and all of Brian's little wink, wink, you know, play acting, like it's all kind of pays off here. And this is where I mean, there's several moments, but to me, this is where Diana, this is her coming out party. That look in the reflected glass that you guys are talking about, that is just pure. It's not evil. It's worse than that. It's not that she's evil. It's that she's completely amoral in a way that a human being would be. She just excited by the idea of something. She's completely cold-blooded. She's totally alien. And we get to experience that in this scene in a fantastic way.
Well, I think it's also the fact that I think this is one of the times where I first genuinely felt sympathy for Robin. And I think that's partly, you know, Tefkin's performance, because like you said, it's off the charts. And
she's terrified in this, in the opening of the scene.
So,
and it's not that she's blissful, but her running back to getting to make out and be with her crush for the first time to, you know, before the end of her world ends, to be able to, she says it, she comes right out and says it at the beginning. It's a cliche, but I don't want to die until I've made love. Like, this is it. It's the fulfillment of that idea. And it's horrific to us, but to her, I don't know if it's magical as much as it feels right and is inevitable. It's why she goes along with it completely. Yeah. And that just makes it worse. It makes it all the more terrifying. Yeah. That she's willfully surrendering her innocence to this alien who doesn't give a lick about her, who's completely just using her.
A lick?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Do they have the yeah? Do only some aliens get a fake human tongue?
The tongue appliance.
The tongue appliance. I guess the security worker doesn't get.
But one more thing,
or
before
maybe
we
he'd
move
already
on.
taken his out.
Yeah.
One more thing we want
off with his face. You never.
Before we move on, is to, as an adult watching this, my mind goes to logistics and like. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm just curious. Like, how did this happen? You know, and I mean, she's inexperienced, but not that inexperienced. You know, depending on what she's being shown, or you know, it's fascinating.
Are you saying there was a moment where she was like, "Is that really
normal?
Is that?" And he's like,
"The lighting is not very moody in these visitor holding pens. I will admit that, but I would argue that she doesn't have to." From her perspective, she doesn't have to experience every detail of that. It's even shown in the storytelling that she's lost in the moment, and that
you're right. But
it only has to work to a certain degree.
Not from Robin's perspective, from Michael's perspective. I'm like, I'm curious, you know. Just anyway.
It's because you're trying to figure out what's going to happen with you and Martin,
or Brian,
Yeah, when you get your shot with Brian.
Donovan finds his way back onto the ship.
Moving on.
He bumps. We have to, because we're going to run out of time. He bumps into Martin. Martin's like, "What are you doing back up here? We just saved you, you idiot!" And he's like, "I got to find my son." And now
I got to find my son. I got to find Tony. I got to do all
this. Guy loves his son, whatever, but this guy has to be shown the big picture before he is going to be of any use to anybody, including himself. And Martin,
so he's already discovered the water before he ran into Martin.
Right, that's right. He was sneaking
around. Like, "Yeah, what was up with all that water? I checked the spigot."
It's not the chemicals they're making; it's actual fresh water.
What are you getting the chemicals for and dumping them out into the atmosphere? And why are there these huge tanks of water? You're after our water, aren't you? And Martin says, "Yes, you have no idea what a precious byproduct that is of your world.
And
most people don't have it. Our engines run on that water. The water is everything to us. So yeah. And he goes, well, why didn't you just ask? We could have helped you. And he goes, some people wanted to do that, but our supreme leader decided that.
And that's not all we have a shortage of.
Right.
And they go into he
doesn't say that yet, but he says it in a moment. He brings him into this giant, it's even round like the ship, so you can tell it just goes all the way around this massive ship.
And it's like, well, where are the people that have
20 stories
disappeared?
deep or whatever.
Yeah.
It's an incredible matte painting by whoever made it. Bravissimo. It feels completely real. And there's real set elements that they get to interact with a little bit that make it feel even more real. But it's this massive holding pen for human bodies, basically. And that's what
they've
Martin
been like
says.
frozen. They're like cryogenically kind of frozen. And I think this is chilling. This revelation,
the sound cue, everything is amazing.
Yep. And it's like, why? What is the deal? Why are you doing this? They're alive. Why? And it's like, well, they're going to be soldiers in a war against this our leader's enemy.
Some of them, he says.
Some of them will.
He breaks the least bad news first, which is some of them.
Some of them,
which implied very few of them, but some of them are going to be used for soldiers in
what about the rest of them?
The leader's enemies, of which he has many.
Yeah, because Sean probably.
And he's like, what about the rest of them? Now there's one other thing that we have a shortage of on our planet. And bling, 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 and Mark Singer's good. Food. It's just the way that it comes out of his mouth. It's this.
Well, but what I was going to point out, I love the fact that Frank Ashmore turns directly to him, because they're all both looking over the front, and he actually turns to him, and you just get his profile saying this to Donovan. This, I mean, as a child, I mean, certain things, of course, in this I did not understand, did not get, but that's as base of a thing that you can get at any age. You can understand that, and to know that they are, well, cannibals, technically not the correct term, but they eat people, they're
just meat eaters like us. That we're just meat.
Meat.
But that's messed up. This is a TV movie in the 80s, y'all. This wasn't, made for Showtime or something. It's like,
but it's important thematically, because they're not going to have, you have a lot of final solution-esque sequences in this, but what you need to have stake is the extermination of the oppressed party. That has to be part of the story. That's, and for this reason, and it's been set up magically and yet it wasn't something I think many people imagined up to this point. Now they're being told it flat out, and it's just
it is.
It's a stunning sequence with an amazing visual, really, really strong performances by Singer and Ashmore as Martin. Like I said, Martin's a ringer. He comes in pretty late in the story, and he's a fantastic character.
I think what's interesting there.
We need somebody to tell us the truth, and he's the truth.
So now we know what all of this has been about. For 2 nights, we've been sitting for we're 4 hours into this thing, and we like, why did they even come here? What is going on, and and why are they so mean? Why are these lizards so mean? And now we know.
Okay, 3 things are going on. Donovan again has to get the hell off the mothership. What an idiot. But now he's leaving with all the information, at least. Before it's too late and security is heightened everywhere in the world, the resistance is planning this big raid on the armory so they can arm themselves and actually be a proper resistance. Right. And there's all kinds of little distraction missions happening all over town that go along with that. And 3, the visitors now know the location of the mountain camp and are heading there. I'm sure at the time that
the visiting captain said, he's like,
predetermined time. I'm sure is when they're going to go there.
I said
they
4
wouldn't
p.m.
go early or anything.
I said 4 p.m.
Let's make it 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Well, no. I said 4, so we should probably stick to 4. I did give my lizard
I gave this human my word.
I believe that. I think he really wanted to, but then someone pressured him. No, we're going to go earlier.
Said, I have an appointment.
Martin says, here, you got the uniform still, fine,
let's get you out of here.
Let's get you out of here. Do you know how to, and he comes to this shuttle, which Martin has already populated with a couple of useful people that he's trying to help escape too. One of them is Robin. The other one is Sancho. So
looking worse for the wear, by the way.
So Tony's
Sancho
dead.
better
Abraham's dead. Thankfully, Mom and Pop Bernstein have been deposited back at their home.
We did
with
see
Daniel.
them, and we did have
Daniel
a
comes running
moment.
up like,
Hey,
you're here. Like they came home from a vacation or something. It's this horrific thing. And they just, his father's like got a sling and he's walk
burned.
right.
They burned him.
Yeah, they burned him, and it's great, and it's wordless. They don't say any. They don't have an exchange, but Daniel recognizes what maybe it's happened. Well, where's Grandpa? They don't say anything. But all these things are coming together here at the end. Robin and Sanchez in the thing, and Donovan starts climbing in the shuttle with him. He goes, "Where are you going?" He's like, "I gotta get out of here."
Yeah, Martin's like, "Dude, I
just let the whole thing go." And Donovan's like, "No, man, you gotta stay. We need you here where you can do the most good. You have to stay." And he's like, "Well, who's gonna fly the shuttle?" And he's like, "I could."
He's like, "Have you seen my chest?"
Exactly. Have you seen how low my shirt is open?
Am I not the hero of this thing? I mean, what are you talking about? I'm going to fly the shuttle.
Did you not see my hair? I fly. I do this. I'm on it.
It's awesome because that's totally how these things would go. And yet he's really sucks at flying the shuttle. Yeah. So you get the payoff of both things, which is really, really fun. And of course, right as they're talking and Martin disappears around the corner, friendly visitor interrogation guy comes walking around the corner and goes, "Hey, I know you."
Hey.
So he climbs in the shuttle, starts flying off. Meanwhile, the armory, there's this big guy shooting it out with guns and stuff, fighting people. There's this great moment as a distraction for that where Ruby is in disguise. Ruby's a master of disguise, we later find out. She's a theater nerd like us. Hashtag one of us. So's Tyler, unbelievably. Hashtag one of us, I guess. I'm not sure about that one. But Ruby is one of us, truly. She's in disguise, and she's walking past the little visitor's security shuttle and with a grocery cart. And she chucks a pipe bomb.
It's a whole Molotov. It's a whole Molotov
That's right, it's a Molotov cocktail.
Which she lights, it's like she's like, "Hello, everybody."
And they all start freaking out, and she just casually pushes her cart down the street. And good cop didn't see her throw the Molotov cocktail, but he looks at the ship and he looks at her hustling away, and he
smiles. It's so good.
It's a Mentos commercial. It's a Mentos commercial at that point.
No, it's so much. I get what you're saying, but it is so much better than that because he doesn't do that. He tries to hold back and he can't, and he snorts this laughter out. And then he quickly has to go, he has to fix himself so that nobody sees him reacting to that.
Fire bad. Oh,
it's the culmination, as Michael said, it's good cop's big moment. I think it's big moments earlier, but it's a great moment for him. Great moment for Ruby, who is now full on resistance fighter. God bless her. And things, unfortunately, at the armory are not going as well. They're outgunned there. They are getting a bunch of weapons loaded into vans, thankfully. And somewhere in the middle of that fighting, Robert goes, The camp. Robin, everybody, what have I done? He has this, exclamation point thing, a little thought bubble above his head in the comic, and jumps into a Jeep and starts heading for the mountains. No checkpoints this time, no problems. He just heads out of town.
Thank goodness he found the route. Yeah.
The problem is on his way there, bunch of 4, I believe, visitor fighter ships fly over him. And this, I don't know how these characters can see each other, but they react like they can. Robert does the whole, you said I'd have it told you. And Stock Pierce's visitor captain character is like, oh shit, bitch! Like he's
but he's riding with Diana's riding with him, right?
Diana's she wanted to finish off the visitor resistance for good. She's all excited about it. So she gets to be a part of this sequence too, which is great. It's important, actually. Then what? Then a huge shuttle dogfight. 2 shuttles actually chasing Donovan, Sancho, and Robin across the entire California coast. in really great helicopter sequences stuff. The effects are a little dodgy, but at this point we're so into the story that it
doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. If they don't look super real, they always look relatively cool. And it uses these landmark California things, the pier, that tunnel, all these things that we've seen in hundreds of shows that use them to great effect. Yep. And Sancho, who can barely move, is sitting in the little gunner's seat in the back. And as soon as they start getting fired upon, it like comes to life. And Donovan's like, hey, shoot those guys or whatever, do something. And Sancho kind of starts shooting them, and he even blows one up. And there's that great moment where where Donovan's like, nice shooting, Cisco. And he goes, Sancho. Like he gets all I call it Sancho's butthead moment. Because when Beavis and Butthead met Bill Clinton kept calling him Bumhead. Well, thank you very much, Bumhead. We really appreciate it. And Butthead is first he's happy to meet the president, and then he just loses all expression. And through the whole rest of the scene, he just is frowning. And then it gets to the end when Clinton walks away, and he just goes, Butthead. I don't know why I love that. I don't know why this reminds me of that, but it does. So there you go.
So they're flying. Sancho is.
You got the white, big-chested hero calling him by a cliched Mexican name of a famous Mexican gunfighter, no less. And it's kind of close to his name, ironically, but he corrects him. It's not cool, and at the same time, it's just kind of awesome and hilarious in this moment. I don't know quite how to explain it. Robin is there only to look concerned at everything that happens. And this is where Blair is, that you don't need this many monkey reaction shots from Robin, just a couple. They just keep cutting to her where she's going. And she looks like one of those spectators at the pod race in Phantom Menace. Like they have no idea what they're looking at. They have no clue. Nobody's told them. They're just told to react. And so she's reacting, and it's bad, and it's too bad. But exciting dogfight, am I right? I mean, this is about as big effectsy sequence as we get in the whole thing, really. It never gets bigger than this, I don't think.
Correct.
So he takes care of his two guys. He flies in under the Back to the Future 2 tunnel, and the other visitor ship flies right into the face of the mountain.
The friendly guy that, hey, say goodbye.
Hey, that guy. He's the one chasing
goodbye. Yeah.
And then
it would have been great if his last words, as he realizes he's about to smash into the wall, if he would have said, "You never said goodbye."
You never said goodbye.
Somewhere in there, he's like, "Come on, why can't you shoot those guys, Cisco or whatever?" And Sancho's like, "Hey, I need a little luck, man." And Donovan's been carrying around his kid's Los Angeles Dodgers baseball hat so that he has it for him when they're reunited, which is, when you think about it, it's cheesy in the moment, but when you think about that, he's had this the whole time. He picked this up in the Tommy Peterson scene, and he hasn't been parted with it since. But he takes out the Dodgers hat, puts it on for luck, and then we get a Robin reaction shot like, a hat? What? You know, it's not good.
No, all she's thinking about is, what is Robin's next bad choice? Let's think about that.
I don't blame the actor in this
I was
case
waiting for Robin to go, press this button. And
she's an important character. She's in the shuttle, and they want you to be reminded of that. But
I get it.
They just cut to her way too many times, and she has nothing she can do other than the cheesy crap she's doing. So
Mountain Camp is
under siege,
getting blowed up good.
Well, because they want to get up there to get all the scientific equipment to get back to the new base.
Their next. That was going to be their next move, but they're slower. They take off after Robert, but Robert gets there first.
Which they actually get there pretty quick after. If you look at the timing, it's a little.
It's a little convenient. Yeah, all of this is super convenient here.
And they're driving a big garbage truck. You know,
as all roads converge. But again, whatever. They're driving a converted garbage truck, and he's driving a Jeep, and he left way earlier, and they get there at about the same time. Robert sees the little canopy his whole family is playing Chutes and Ladders under, completely obliterated in front of his eyes as soon as he pulls up. This is actually harsh because we've spent a lot of time with the Maxwells. The idea that they're gone in this moment is harsh. You know, the rebels are now armed, but they can't shoot these M16s and stuff at these visitor shuttles and have a chance in hell. They're doing their best. They've got Elias and Brad, at least the cop and the criminal, who become pals in future episodes, which is again a theme that Kenneth was working towards. It doesn't quite pay off, but they've got bazookas, and they actually take out one of them, which is kind of fun to see.
It's a cool effect. It looks good.
Mm-hmm.
The way great. The ship is going and it gets hit, it kind of does this jerk.
Yep.
It looks really good. I always love that part.
Well, yeah.
It's great. And Bandana Rebellion lady is like running across the thing to help somebody, and she gets shot. And Josh is there, and he tries to come to her aid, but he can't do it. He gets there, and he's like a dog that caught a squirrel. Like he doesn't know what to do once he's there. He can't drag her to safety. Yep. He's not a doctor. There's like nothing he can do. And so he kind of freezes up. And Juliet gets there, sees this, comes to his aid. And as Diana and Visitor Captain Ship come flying through along the ground, and they do that thing where where the wide lasers just sort of shoot on either side of our heroes. Yeah. And Juliet stands up, and just like in the helicopter assault sequence at the very, very beginning in El Salvador, she stands up with a handgun, and just boom, 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 just takes as many shots at that visitor ship as she can. Unlike the helicopter, it doesn't take the helicopter down. The visitor ship just zooms around, and Diana's got one of her signature lines, which is "Another pass."
I want that woman.
Get that woman.
Yep.
Which is so important for things down the road.
It is.
It sets up that recognition.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now we know. Yeah. Now we know who the true protagonist is and who the true antagonist is.
I mean, I know we're running out of time, but I don't want to go past the call out to the opening scene quick. I think that is so stunningly done.
Yeah.
And just.
I don't think we should either.
It's so smart. I mean, it's just like this fully formed resistance in the beginning, and she's taken that. I don't know. It's such a smart way to do it.
Juliet's been transformed. She's still a scientist and still a doctor. Mm-hmm. Those things, those qualities about her are still the most important. But this moment where she becomes the resistance fighter, who with every bullet she has is going to fight in even the most impossible situation, like we've seen in El Salvador.
Beautiful.
She had the responsibility thrown upon her, whether she wanted it or not, and resisted it. This is the moment where she realizes, I cannot resist this, or I cannot fight this. I cannot fight this any longer.
Yeah. And Diana and Visitor Captain are coming around for another pass, and they are going to quote get that woman. It's going to happen this time, and she just reloads and gets ready to do it again. And luckily this time, because I think she'd be toast otherwise.
Probably.
Donovan in a rather beat up looking shuttle comes up behind theirs, and Joel takes care of them. And it's great. It blows up kind of the back of Diana's shuttle, and Diana's face is kind of half peeled off.
Oh, that's I vividly remember seeing that for the first time.
But looking at that, for those listening, look at her eye movement because she's got the visitor. It is solid, that makeup. Just watch her move her eyeball, and it's like
the makeup effects in. We've talked now about some of the limitation of the optical effects with the spaceships and stuff. Yeah. But I really think on the budget they have, they do as well as they can. The laser blasts are fantastic. The makeup effects are the whole thing. The matte paintings too, because they really help with the scale of the thing. But the makeup effects are what makes V what it is. And they know that this is a money shot in the thing. All the visitor faces we've seen so far are important, but Diana actually being able to act with this makeup half on and half off is important. And she doesn't look stunned. She looks pissed.
That's what I was just going to say.
The makeup eye conveys that, and that's incredible.
But this is a turning point for Diana. She's not doing her job anymore from here on out. She'll do it, but this is now, it's personal. I mean, frankly, this is now I'm angry. Yes. I'm not just doing my job as a psycho.
Right.
lizard lady.
I'm taking over the military part of the operation in my
she's
region.
angry.
She's
and I
mad.
love that.
Yeah.
You can see it in their face. Like, oh man.
But
unfortunately, visitor captain
melee
lives to fight another day. But she says, return to base. There's only 2 of us now. They've blown up the rest of us. They've got a shuttle. We better get out of here.
Yep.
So they leave, kind of like Darth Vader at the end of Star Wars. You see them flying off into the distance. Penelope Windust's character, Kathleen, Robert finds her kind of near all this rubble, and she dies in his arms, basically. And because of him, because he informed on them. And there's this great moment where he as she withers away, he brings his sidearm up to his head, like he's gonna,
because he already thinks that the rest of the family's dead too.
And Robin behind him screams out, "Daddy!" as loud as she could. And he turns around, and Robin and Polly and toddler, whose name I can't remember,
and Hershey's Kiss toddler,
Hershey's Kiss toddler. It's also your fault, little lady. Sancho's gonna have a word to say with you.
Exactly.
Sancho,
Anyway, no, good cop makes up for that. It wasn't her fault. But either way, they run up, and there's this great group hug. It's one of my favorite group hugs in all the film. They grab onto her, and Robin tries to kind of squirm around and get to her mother, and Robert grabs her and won't let her. Pulls her back in to this family unit. We're all we have now. It's an incredible moment. And then Elias says, "Hey, those guys ain't so tough." And Brad says, "What? They ain't so tough? Are you kidding me?" We get all kinds of future exchanges like that from these types of characters, which is fun.
And then
Juliet and Donovan give each other a little hug and a thank you for coming to the rescue. Everything is working out okay for now.
Yeah, and now, and he can, Donovan knows that he has info that is actually that will, further this resistance. And
he's got the big story.
He's got the big story, and now we cut to the Bernstein home. Where the Bernsteins have been, they're beaten down. They're, it's bad, but
Robert's come to pay them a visit.
And says, "You got to come join us. You got to come into hiding. You got to join the resistance." And they're like, "No." And Lynn, the wife, is like, "No, we've given enough. We've done. Look, they burned his arm."
They killed his father. It's like they really have done their bit.
They have, but
she has a point. And
Stan goes and finds
Daniel still lives here. She says, "What are you talking about? We're not going to be a safe house. There's nothing safe about this house." And Stanley steps up and he says, "No, we have to help. We have to help." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" She's trying to mom sort of lay down the law, and he breaks out this letter, right? And it's great because as good as George is, who plays Stanley, Bartlett's an extraordinary actor who is the mom and doesn't get to do much. And the script makes her read Abraham's letter.
Yeah.
It's so stunning. It's
really good drama.
Because you're seeing her produce the tears, because I don't think maybe there's a couple of cutaways, but
not much of them.
It's just like, not just the message, but the way it's delivered.
Take over the letter from her when she can't continue.
Yeah.
But her reading Abraham's letter about how we, it's just amazing. Abraham is still there. It's important that Abraham's still there in this letter. He's still part of the story, even though he's gone, because he's such a crucial part of the storytelling at this stage. And the fill-in, the spiritual leader in the final battle, fill-in for him is woefully incompetent by comparison, and probably deliberately so. But still, it's a really powerful moment, and it ends with Stanley saying to his wife, "We have to help, or we won't have learned
anything." Yeah.
And then they cut to the final blip.
Yeah, we get the there was a little piece of information that we touched upon earlier where we said that they're going to be soldiers to fight in another war against our leader's enemies, to which Donovan responds,
"Maybe our enemy's enemy is our friend."
And so they cut to like an astronomer, like at a radio telescope,
right?
and who's agreed to send a distress signal out into space to hopefully say, hey, do you hate the visitors too? Come on,
they're here on Earth.
They're over here.
Very
Come
quickly,
I
think the problem is I think that was established to set something up down the road, because it's never seen through anywhere.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming that would have been an expensive endeavor to do so, but it is of those.
It's a big setup for the next thing. It's the big cliffhanger, and not really cliffhanger. The series ends with, hey, we're going to do what we can. Juliet and Elias standing outside this thing, and Elias is like, man, I hope they show up or whatever. And she's like, hey, whether they show up or not, this is on us. This is on humans to stop these guys. We have to do everything we can. He's like, what can we do against them? And she's like, she basically gives him the resistance leader speech, everything and anything, whatever. We can't stop and we can never give up. And he kind of nods and he gives the door of the facility the V.
Oh, right.
And Juliet says,
the war is just beginning.
Yeah, and she's right. Fade to black.
Fade to black.
Don't forget about Robin's final moment.
That's right. Robin's
That's kind of already happened, but yeah,
right. Yeah, we did skip over it. This was before the letter. This was before we go to the burn scenes, because we get the they're settling in the hideout, and they're like, wow, Robin, you're like a mom now. You're like the mom now. And she's like,
and I haven't been feeling well.
You've been sick.
It's
all
actually
the time,
Polly that
Robin.
says, are you sick again? And
Yeah.
she's like, just a little bit. And she's like, you've been sick like every day. And she's like, only in the morning or whatever. And
yeah,
like,
it's pretty clear what's going on.
But...
No, but it's that look in the mirror, which I think is repeated in the final battle. The kind of doing the profile look in the mirror. That's also, I will reuse the term chilling.
You know what it is? It and this is a teaser for next week. It's it's dramatic.
NBC executives, if I knew where you lived and could come to each of your homes and strangle you for that, I would do it.
Play it again, Joel, just for that. Play it again.
I would do it. So maybe not, but maybe we can move through Final Battle a little quicker. I don't know. It's a little less thematically rich, but it is extremely plot heavy.
Yes.
So we'll see what we can do. We'll try. Indeed. There's one thing, we're at the end of our time, but there's one thing I got to do. It's going to be a big, long, elaborate thing, but I won't be that now. We just don't have the time to keep you. But we wanted to give a shout out to actress Dominic Dunn, who's most famous for playing the teenage daughter who is wise enough to get the hell out of Dodge once stuff got going bad at the Poltergeist house in Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist from 1982. What's her name in that? I can't remember her name.
Dana,
of course. That's a good name for her. She was cast as Robin originally in this, and had shot at least the early some scenes. She was in an abusive relationship with a guy that she met. Dominic Dunn was a really fiery personality. You get a sense of that, I think, when you watch Poltergeist. She was, she was attracted to people like that. She liked to argue, and she liked to get excited, and was just a really animated and interesting person. But she got in with this wrong sort of guy whose name I'm not going to mention. And tragically, when they started in a tragedy, truly, when one night in the home she was living in Hollywood, she was out on her front lawn with David Packer, and they were studying lines for their big scene, their What About Brian scene or whatever that they were going to be shooting the next day. And this guy came over. She immediately told him to go into the house, and she went in with him, and they kind of locked the door. But she had another person there that she felt responsible for. So when she thought she got her ex-abusive boyfriend, and he was abusive, her final posthumous performance was in an episode of Hill Street Blues where she played a pregnant teenager, of all things, who was abused by her parents and was giving up her child for adoption. And this is some of this stuff sometimes becomes Hollywood legend. I don't know how true it is, but the story is that the bruises and stuff on her neck, near her eye and stuff in the show, on her arm, were real. They didn't need to do makeup for them. She'd been beaten up by her boyfriend before appearing on that show. It's obviously Poltergeist, but that episode of Hill Street Blues, which if you can stream it somewhere, the episode has, I don't know what number it is, but it has its name is Requiem for a Hairbag. And outside the comical name, this story of these abused kids is a really, really powerful one. And it's Hill Street Blues was one of the top shows of its day. And it's quite a swan song to her that she plays an abuse victim in it, who is taking action and doing the best she can under the circumstances. She thought she calmed down her boyfriend enough. She left Packer locked up in her house and went to meet him, to talk to him out in her front yard, and he strangled her to death on her lawn. Packer called the police. Some sort of breakdown in the police where the police people he called were for the wrong neighborhood or something. I don't know what happened, but nobody came to help in a long time. After her boyfriend killed her, he waited around to be arrested. And he said, I think I killed my girlfriend and I tried to kill myself, was what he said. And he was hauled away. And he was convicted of first-degree manslaughter, but not murder, murder 2 or murder 3, which I think is stunning. It's a terrible story. Dominic Dunne was a really talented young person. She was an unconventional actor. I really think Blair Tefkin did a great job of embodying Robin in the way that she is on the page. I think that's true, and she should be proud of that because she's really, really great. And she came into a tough situation. But Dominic's, just in all fairness, is a more interesting actor who makes more interesting choices and has a lot more going on in her eyes as an actor. I think Robin's character would have been a different thing, would have been, if dare I say, a slightly less cliched thing than what we ended up with, even though the cliche really is a tool to get us rather miraculously through all the plot points of the story. But more so, it's the loss of her. David Packer, who's brilliant in V, we talked about it, and we go from sort of feeling like he's a bit of a tragic character to just outright hating him because he's just so horrible. But Packer suffered because of both things. One, he suffered from playing this douchebag really, really well, and Hollywood decided that's all he was. And he was also this guy who was part of this terrible, terrible event that happened that did nothing. He didn't come to the rescue. He didn't even come out there to save her. We all suspect, and the police and everybody said this, that he'd probably be dead too if he had, but we don't know. And it's just terrible to be a part of that. Dominic Dunne's father is journalist Dominic Dunne, who became a rather famous crime reporter in the wake of this event. He was more of a world affairs journalist before this happened, and it sort of transformed his life. There's a beautiful picture of Dominique with her mom in a wheelchair on the internet that captures what her spirit was and what a live and wonderful person she was. And we're going to dedicate this to her before we move on to the rest of it. The show is the miniseries is dedicated to her. She's still featured in it. The reverse shots of the mothership coming over the neighborhood, you can tell it's clearly Robin, but you can tell Robin's hair is, Blair Tefkin's hair is sort of out of control 80s hair, and Dominique's is rather straight and linear, and you can see that it's not quite the same character, even though they're dressed the same way. Kenneth said he wanted to leave whatever he could of her in the show because he wanted her spirit to be part of the show. I think that's kind of cool.
Interesting. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize that till we watched this most recent time, and we saw the dedication, and that's when I went and obviously looked it up, because I guess the last time I watched it was 15 years ago, didn't make the connection or didn't see it, whatever. But yeah, it was
not tragic, part of the promotional materials of
certainly,
the show, obviously. But it's a very real tragedy that has its connection with the show. Has nothing to do with the show, and yet it does have something to do with the show. So it's one of those things, but it doesn't. We'll talk about Poltergeist someday, of course, but it felt like this was the time to talk about this. And we're not, we're just these three guys. I can just tell you, if you're in any sort of relationship or any sort of thing where you need help and you were ever to reach out to the show or any of us, I know that no, we're not experts on abuse or anything, but do it. Reach out to somebody.
Yep.
We would do anything we could to help you. That's all I can really say about that. That shouldn't happen to anybody. It shouldn't happen to anybody, especially not somebody as promising and really wonderful of her as Dominica was sharing her gifts with the world. That's a magical, wonderful thing that was cut just horrifically and tragically short. So,
yep. So, so that is going to do it for our discussion of the original miniseries, 1983's V. Coming up next week, we go 1 year later. It has been 1 year since the Visitor's arrival.
1 whole year.
And our resistance, the resistance is strong but small. The Visitors are still strong and mighty and very lizardy. But
and they've got some new gold trim on their
they got a costume.
uniforms.
They clearly the wardrobe, the munitions area. They were able to find some fabric and said, let's gussy these things up a little bit.
We're gonna add all this extra armor to them. While we do that, how about a little bling on the side? Yep. I think Steven said.
And Diana gets some hair changes.
I was gonna say, have the Visitors they came up and they realized, you know what these chemicals are that we've been getting, that we've just been pumping in here? You know what it is? It's Aquanet. Here you go.
What's more American than that?
I love it.
And so next week we will be jumping into.
And now, prepare yourself for the final battle.
That's right, V, the final battle, coming at you next week. Until then, Michael, thank you so much for joining us once again. We're so happy to have you. And we'll see all of you next time on The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan.
Thank you for listening to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.